General Xianhua Yun of Bukshan appeared on the battlefield, his gaze resolute and sword dripping with deadly intent. He quelled the chaotic political turmoil with unmatched martial prowess. After the victory, Xianhua Yun crowned Yurim as emperor and appointed 6 loyal vassals who had fought alongside him as his aides to assist the emperor. Black smoke billowed like a harbinger of a new catastrophe. In the hazy mist, shadows began to stir. The first raindrops fell, the eerie silence signaling that a massacre had just occurred or was about to begin. Amidst the storm of fire and smoke, a small figure fell into the eye of the storm, lonely, powerless, like a fragment lost in a terrifying battle. Xianhua Yun lay collapsed on the ground, his body torn and soaked in blood. His wide-open eyes could not yet believe the brutal fate that had befallen. Xianhua Yun struggled to rise amid the blood rain, clutching a bleeding wound in his abdomen. His eyes still burned with unyielding defiance. His body trembled, blood pooling on the ground. Ahead, silent figures emerged through the rain, not reinforcements, but enemies. Looking up at the cliff, Xianhua was stunned to see 6 kings, once his brothers in arms, now standing opposed under the cold moonlight. With reddened eyes and a choked voice, he uttered in disbelief, 6 kings, have you betrayed me? One step forward, eyes calm and silent. No explanation, only a cold decree. You must leave, General. Xianhua screamed in despair, his eyes blazing with hatred. Sword King, have you forgotten me? Xianhua Yun roared, proclaiming his name to his former comrade. I am Xianhua Yun, his voice laced with pain and desperation. His leg wound bled profusely, blood streaming across the earth like the betrayal gnawing at his soul. He knelt in the rain, battered, but his eyes filled with rage and unanswered anguish. Xianhua's eyes widened in shock. All he received was the cold indifference of those he once trusted most. One of the 6 kings approached, looking at him with pity. With a body like that, what can you still do? This is the end, General. A fierce strike landed, a burst of light tearing through the space, like the final death sentence for Xianhua Yun. Despite his battered body, Xianhua lifted his head defiant, declaring he would not let the traitors leave easily. He was ready to take them down with him in death. A storm of spiritual energy erupted from his body, shaking the sky. The 6 kings panicked and retreated amid the furious tempest. Xianhua's sword engulfed in destructive flame. This desperate power stunned his enemies. Impossible. The leader faltered, murmuring as the light enveloped. Such power from a broken body. Xianhua responded with a roar. I will show you. The descending dance of Xianhua Yun. He charged like a final storm, eyes blazing with the fire of life and death. The last dance of the divine incarnation. Faced with Xianhua Yun's blazing power, one of the 6 kings gasped in astonishment. Another doubted whether Sword King could finish off the general. Sword King gave no direct answer, but his serious gaze acknowledged the extraordinary strength from the wounded body. Xianhua Yun, true to the title war god, commanded respect even from the superhuman. Within Xianhua, all reason faded. Clenching his fists, his will to die ignited. If he could drag even one down to hell, he was ready. With a defiant roar, he accepted all consequences. Though facing despair, a trace of regret shone in Xianhua's eyes. If that person were here now, he would not be alone in this final battle. A silent call echoed, "Where are you?" As if sensing something, Xianhua's eyes snapped open. His body trembled not only from pain, but from something approaching. A flicker of hope sparked amid despair. Xianhua's lips curled slightly, blood still dripping from his wound. No words, but the expression mixed pain, anticipation, and a slowly rekindling faith. Xianhua Yun bit his lip, fully aware his body was nearing its limit. Though strong, he had only half an hour left to face 6 masters of the transcendent realm. A figure silently approached from behind, plunging a dagger into Xianhua's back. Though his body was broken, he still made his enemy wary with power beyond the ordinary. Hearing the familiar voice, Xianhua froze. Unable to believe his ears, he murmured in pain, "Impossible." The one who just appeared was none other than his younger brother, the one always hidden in the shadows. He smiled coldly and declared, "You are the one who cannot be allowed to survive." Struck by a fatal blow, Xianhua was stunned as he realized the betrayal. In his delirium, he tried to call his brother's name, Yu. Blood gushed out as Xianhua fell face down onto the ground. His last words were not curses, but a heart-wrenching scream, "Even you." Collapsing in a pool of blood, Xianhua Yun recognized the truth. The one ruling this world was Emperor Yurim. But above the emperor, he once believed in a divine being, and now that very deity was trampling on his fate. Bitter and weak, Xianhua whispered in his dying breath, unable to believe that the one who stabbed him in the back was the comrade he had entrusted his life to. Before him stood Yurim, once called brother, now smiling coldly at an unforgivable betrayal. Blood poured from the fatal wound, and Xianhua could not utter a curse, only a broken call, "You." Amid the rainy night and despair, the name Rim was the last to leave his lips, unleashing a fierce wave of darkness rising within. Yu Rim stood amidst the blood rain, declaring the end of Xianhua Yun, the last war god of this continent. With a proud smile, he asserted that from this moment on, he alone was the true emperor. In another realm, blue flames blazed fiercely, engulfing a soul reborn amid chaos. A vague consciousness awakened. He, in another body, felt this place burning hot and dark like hell. The sword that once killed him was raised once more. Yu Rim bowed his head, whispering as if granting mercy, "Let me free you." The dying figure beneath him was Xianhua Yun, the great general of Bukshan and his own brother, whom he had just betrayed. Xianhua Yun's bloodied body collapsed on the battlefield. Yurim turned his back cold. The enemy was no longer outside. An icy hand touched the ground, dark swirling light surrounding it, a new consciousness rising amid chaos, questioning, is this purgatory? A blue-haired boy looked on in shock. Before him was a familiar body in a child's form. This child is me. Fear surged and he wanted to give up, to hide in darkness. But then, a strange sound echoed, signaling that something was about to happen. Bruised memories surfaced. Yurim, once called elder brother, was now siding with the enemy. The pain lingered, the truth hard to accept. Xianhua Yun, dying, called his brother's name, Yu, his anguished eyes opening one last time amid cold rain and falling shadows of swords. The boy looked up at the deep skylight, blue moonlight shining down, a strange feeling tightening his heart. Someone was outside. Two palace attendants whispered in the night, voices full of reproach. The palace master was so cruel he would use his own child as medicine. Overhearing the conversation, the boy trembled, pressing his hand against a rock carved with ancient script. A terrifying thought echoed in his mind, undeniable. The ancient script glowed, heat radiating from within, suddenly burning his hand and making him dizzy. A sharp pain pierced his whole body. The boy fell into a cold puddle, blood from his hand mixing with the glowing water. In his delirium, a horrifying image appeared, a child being boiled alive. He froze. The child was none other than himself. The boy looked at his dripping hand, confused to realize this place was no longer the world he once knew. As he bent over the water, an unexpected reflection appeared himself, but with a strange appearance. The water suddenly rippled violently, pulling the boy down and submerging him deep into the strange water. Amid the chaotic whirlpool, he struggled to surface unconsciously, panic rising as he saw spirals of light swirling around his body. From above, a dazzling stream of energy poured down like a waterfall of blue fire, illuminating the entire space. The boy was shocked to realize he was inside a blue porcelain vessel, a prison for souls and untold paths. The Chenghua flame blazed fiercely, its heat forcing even the guards to step back and avoid it. Inside the furnace, the boy knelt, struggling to rise amid the scorching heat burning his body. His breath grew rapid. He clenched his mouth, trying to stay conscious as his awareness began to fade. His vision blurred amidst the sea of flame. The name, Hwa Yuna, softly echoed like the last ray of light in his mind. Outside, the guards whispered with unease. Though only following orders, they couldn't help but shudder at the merciless scene. The giant cauldron was engulfed in blue flames. Inside, a child was being burned alive, and all they could do was watch. A white-haired figure appeared amid the blue fire, standing tall before the young man's stunned gaze. He shouted emotionally, calling the figure master. The shocking truth seemed beyond endurance. The master spread his arms, surrounded by fierce flame, standing in the midst of a spiritual energy vortex filling the room. With eyes blazing in anger, he shouted, "What are you doing?" his voice piercing through layers of fire. As the master's words ended, a massive flow of spiritual energy seemed to awaken, flowing down to the student dance. The young man regained consciousness amid the chaos, feeling his weak body struggle to escape this purgatory. He looked up at the cauldron's mouth, realizing he was trapped inside a giant pot, the flickering blue flames making the air suffocate. He kicked the water, sensing clearly that only action could help him escape this life-scorching place. Though unsure why he had been swapped into this teenager's body, one thing was certain: he couldn't just wait to die. Outside, two fire guards still watched the blazing flames rise, believing nothing could escape the purgatory cauldron. One of them whispered hauntingly, finding this cruelty hard to accept even if it was an order. Behind the door, a mysterious figure cloaked in a half-revealed royal robe observed everything, as if he were the one behind the burning of innocent children. The old man stepped out from the door, eyes following the bright blue flames, his heart heavy with hesitation and guilt. The flames suddenly changed color, turning a dark green and flaring fiercely, as if signaling an impending transformation. A soldier recounted in panic. The old man had cared for the young master like his own son for 15 years, and could not be indifferent to this scene. Inside the crematorium, Xianhua's eyes filled with tears as the name Hwa Yuna echoed in his mind like a revived memory. Xianhua was shocked when a familiar voice called his name, Xianhua Yun, making his heart pound wildly. The dark green flames surged, engulfing the entire furnace mouth, strange energy filling the space, opening an unforeseen turning point. The old man startled and turned his head, the demonic light behind him causing him to freeze in panic. Suspicion was clear on his face as he faced the bizarre scene before him. The young man shouted in astonishment, questioning the pale stranger appearing within the fiery space. A vague voice echoed, revealing this place as the stage of Avatar, where flames birthed the dreams of gods. A giant dragon claw made of fire appeared in the furnace, radiating majesty and sinister energy. The flames exploded, the dragon's full form swirling around the magic formation cauldron, signaling something terrible about to awake. A thunderous explosion rang out, brilliant blue flames bursting as the sacred dragon's figure emerged amid smoke and fire. The fire dragon coiled fiercely, rising into the sky as if summoned from the deep veins of earth and heaven. The crowd outside outside looked up at the dragon's appearance, stunned into silence by the miracle they were witnessing. Inside the formation, the teenager's hand blazed with blue light, spiritual energy gathering and spiraling deep into the rotating air currents. The mysterious figure's face lit with excitement as he screamed in frenzy. Yes, that's it. The teenager stood amid the spiritual vortex, eyes resolute. I can't die here. I won't abandon the traitor. He tightened his gaze, recalling his master's final technique, Avatar Descent Dance. Within the swirling blue energy, he smiled determinedly as power began to envelop his body. The white-haired youth suddenly appeared, shouting excitedly, "Let me join." Two streams of energy twisted together midair, their forms harmonizing as if moving to the same rhythm. He turned to look at his senior brother, his cold eyes ready to face the coming challenge. In a wild dance, the two combined seamlessly, leaving a powerful mark in the bursting spiritual energy around them. The swirling water in the central pool began moving strangely, pulling a powerful spiral of energy along with it. A brilliant blue flame suddenly erupted from the water's surface, shooting straight into the sky, illuminating the entire great hall. The old man in yellow froze as he felt the shock, his face turning pale with panic. HWA. Two guards startled, following the dazzling light. One pointed toward the door in amazement. There, it's the Imperial Physician. The wild flames surged, forming the shape of a roaring mythical dragon. It looks like a dragon gone mad. Before everyone's eyes, the fire dragon manifested in the sky, coiling with fury. The crowd below stood frozen in fear. Energy burst violently, beams piercing through the barrier, shattering a ceiling structure that had lasted centuries. The old man stood in the courtyard, fists clenched, trembling with rage as he realized HWA was also being exploited. His eyes darkened, silence enveloping his soul, filled with boiling hatred and sorrow. He quietly walked away, his solitary figure fatting behind the door, carrying unspoken disappointment. In the hazy smoke, two guards lay unconscious, evidence of the dragon spirit's recent fury. At the center of it all, the blue-haired young man stood firm, his cold gaze radiating the aura of one who had just awakened ancient power. The old man trembled as he approached the shattered ruins, his eyes filled with disbelief at the figure before him. His face brightened as he called out loudly, "Young master," with a voice choked by hope and emotion. But moments later, his expression stiffened, eyes wide with horror as he sensed something terrible unfolding. The image of the fire dragon appeared vividly, like a sacred soul rising from the depths of chaos. From the thick smoke, the blue-haired youth emerged, cold-eyed and imposing, whispering, "From the depths of hell, I have returned," he shouted amid fierce lightning, declaring a resurrection with power no one could underestimate. The guards panicked and knelt in submission after witnessing the recent wrath. The old man stepped forward, eyes horrified at the surging spiritual energy. The blue-haired youth tied his hair high and lifted his head, his vacant gaze amidst the swirling blue energy like a soul pulled back from death. The old man screamed in despair, calling "Young master," with overwhelming pain and fear, his trembling hand reaching out unconsciously. His eyes widened in terror. Before him was no longer the harmless boy, but an inexplicable being awakening. The scene shifted to a medical room. Herbal bundles hung from the ceiling with the words, "Strictly forbidden," swaying in the dim light, an ominous sign. A slender foot stepped into the spiritual energy, carrying a strange pressure. Blue energy wrapped around the body as if welcoming its new master. The teenager spread his arms, spiritual energy surging like wild waves, enveloping his glowing body amid heaven and earth. Inside the quiet room, healing tools were neatly arranged, a calm before the coming storm. A painful scream echoed as his body convulsed violently. A man in black stood with his back turned, exuding a cold, deathly aura. The masked man spoke venomously, pouring all his hatred onto the boy's mother, as if that justified his cruelty. The old man sighed in relief that he was still allowed to treat the young masked, though his eyes remained suspicious of the ruler's true intention. The teenager collapsed onto the cold tiled floor, unconscious and uncertain if alive. The old servant panicked, turning around with extreme confusion. The elderly servant rushed over, kneeling beside the unconscious young master, lying on the cold floor. He embraced the limp body, calling the boy's name desperately, hopping for any sign of response. His eyes widened in shock as he noticed something unusual. His whole body stiffened. The corner of the young master's mouth oozed black blood, his pale face a terrifying sign of deadly poison. A strange energy flared up, causing the two men in black behind to recoil in horror at the unprecedented sight. 20 years working here and I've never seen this, one stammered, completely losing control. The old servant hurried over upon seeing the young master unconscious, the spiritual energy around still raging fiercely. He quickly supported the limp body, repeatedly calling the name of the young master he served. A flicker of doubt appeared in his eyes as he sensed something abnormal. Blood trickled from the young master's mouth, not from an external wound, but from severe internal damage. The two men in black stared in terror at the unleashed power, panicking at witnessing something they'd never seen before. "Even if we told others, no one would believe it," one whispered shakily, his eyes hardening with shock and fear. The giant furnace exploded in the dead of night, cracks spreading as the sacred flames blazed fiercely. The night guards panic, shouting as they recognize the phenomenon of the solar meridian, a legendary event. The blue-haired young man slowly released his grip on the old servant's shoulder, his expression calm but eyes sharp with caution. The old servant frowned, half joking, half serious, wondering if his young master had changed by nature or because of absorbing the solar heart energy. A stranger stood among 7 powerful figures, asserting that the 7 calamities, those thought destroyed, still exist. A violent aura radiated from the palace, throwing the old servant backward, his face in pain as the spiritual pressure made him gasp for breath. The old man wiped his eyes through the haze, his gaze clearing after the intense shock. The young man clenched his hairpin, eyes resolute, his heart burning with hatred, but his mind told him he needed allies. After a moment's thought, he released his grip. The hairpin fell to the ground, signaling a truce. Cold air rushed in, the ground cracked. A stranger had just descended. The old servant squinted, tense as he looked into the reflection in his pupil. Something was off. The young man leaned close to his ear, speaking softly. "I think this will suit you better." The servant startled, turning with a mix of suspicion and amazement. The boy before him was no longer the weak young master of old. The old servant smiled knowingly, stirring suspicion with a pointed question. Had the young master decided to see him as friend or foe? The young man froze as he sensed the sharp killing intent radiating from the man before him. A chill ran down his spine. In a flash, the old servant struck. Golden light tore through the space as the spear lunged forward. Reacting swiftly, the young man held his gaze steady, though his face betrayed surprise at the sudden attack. The old servant laughed loudly, eyes sharp as knives. If the young man misplaced his trust, the consequences would be more than just a wound. Amid the blinding light, the young man stood firm. His eyes shone as he tracked the spear's approach, unwavering in resolve. The old man was startled to see the young man not dodge the attack, his expression turning suspicious and alert. He thought to himself, "He's not dodging. Does he think I won't strike for real?" The young man smiled calmly, affirming, "Exactly, I know what you want from me." Realizing the technique just used was Singsabak, the legendary dark art of the sect's founder, the young man was astonished. He lay back on the bed, exhausted but with inner strength still fluctuating strongly, while the old man watched intently. Seeing the unusual blood vessels on the young man's chest, the old man couldn't help but exclaim, "Unbelievable." Ching Hwa was only unconscious from exhaustion and dehydration. His other wounds were minor. His survival through the burning formation was unimaginable. The door suddenly burst open, signaling someone urgently arriving. 2 servants entered, delivering an urgent summons from the palace lord, forcing the imperial physician to leave immediately. The imperial physician frowned upon hearing the palace lord's name, his gaze lingering on the still unconscious Ching Hwa. While lying still, Ching Hwa softly confirmed the order, showing he was fully conscious. The quiet space was broken by a slight sound, signaling movement within the room. On a beam, a mysterious shadow silently observed the room, where Ching Hwa lay unconscious. Without a sound, the masked figure descended beside the bed, his cold eyes fixed on Ching Hwa's frail body. The stranger's glowing red eyes radiated a terrifying killing intent, enveloping the defenseless Ching Hwa. He pulled out a small vial from his robe, his movements slow but calculated. Without a word, he carefully poured the vial's contents into Ching Hwa's mouth, as if performing a secret ritual. The pale liquid trickled down Ching Hwa's lips and neck, and his body began to react strangely. After administering the medicine, the man in black staggered, his body starting to show odd reactions. Ching Hwa suddenly opened his eyes wide, his whole body tensing as if violently stimulated from within. A piercing scream tore from his throat as he convulsed painfully, feeling as if his chest was burning from the inside. The imperial physician turned back to check, suspicion in his eyes as he saw Ching Hwa awaken in a strange state, unlike one with strong bloodline. Recognizing the judging gaze, Ching Hwa reacted sharply, directly questioning the physician's doubts. The imperial physician seriously recounted his life mission. As the inheritor of the supreme martial art Singsa, he became the imperial doctor to protect worthy disciples on their cultivation path. Ching Hwa was stunned by the offer to teach Singsabak, his heart swelling with worry over the brutal nature of the training process. The doctor shook his head, saying that until now, no one had succeeded in mastering that ultimate technique. He recounted how disciples fell one after another because their bodies couldn't withstand Singsabak power, with only the former sect leader surviving thanks to possessing the fire yang essence. However, he affirmed that Ching Hwa could succeed because he possessed the fire yang heart and was still young. His body would regenerate as he matured. Ching Hwa's eyes gleamed with determination. From hell and back, now was the time to master the legendary martial arts and cleanse the betrayal with the power of Hwa Shinderamu and Singsabak. The doctor smiled, reminding him that he was the 4th young master, hunted by 3 elder brothers, and the only place without rivalry was this medical hall. A confident man entered, twin swords at his side and cold eyes. He arrived just in time. Ji Chunwoo, the eldest son of the Sun Palace, laughed heartily upon seeing his younger brother finally awake. The old doctor showed reproach for not being informed earlier, while Chunwoo just smiled casually, saying he came because of the one who caused chaos in the palace. Chunwoo acted familiar, calling his name, but his eyes were cold. The younger brother, Chung Hwa, silently remained wary of that fake smile. Chung Hwa looked him straight in the eye, coldly denying, "I don't know you," inwardly cursing, "Fake bastard." Ji Chunwoo retorted bitterly with sarcasm, but Chung Hwa only smirked. In his past life, he was the war god of words. Don't expect to win an argument with. Ji Chunwoo's face turned purple with anger at his brother's cold rejection. His once fake expression shattered into uncontrollable rage. The old doctor chuckled softly, a gleam of amusement in his eyes, as if he had long predicted this reunion's outcome. Unable to contain his fury, Chunwoo grabbed Chung Hwa's collar, gritting his teeth and cursing, forgetting this was no longer his territory. In the corner, herb bags trembled light, as if forewarning the storm about to erupt from the fiery sibling confrontation. The old doctor sighed, eyes weary. Though he had witnessed many power struggles, he never got used to the foolishness of the power. Chung Hwa calmly spoke, a cold light flickering at his lips, as if to forever end the younger brother title the other tried to impose. To everyone's astonishment, the young man raised his head and declared firmly, "My name is Hwa Yoon." Those words startled the elder, his eyes wide with shock as if recalling something from the past. Ji Chunwoo froze hearing that name. His face paled as he whispered, "That name." An image appeared in everyone's mind, a blazing red armor and icy gaze. It was the Northern Heavenly General. "Northern Heavenly General," a chorus of voices exclaimed, filling the room with fierce red energy. Ji Chunwoo burst into laughter, mocking Hwa Yoon's past, but Hwa Yoon calmly replied, "I have no lowly mother." The old steward was stunned upon detecting signs of poisoning, his voice trembling as he asked to confirm what no one dared imagine. Looking at Hwa Yoon unconscious, he sighed, nodding the young master seemed deeply hated. Still, he believed the poison couldn't overcome the solar core within. Hwa Yoon responded sarcastic, driving Chunwoo into a furious rage, who screamed angrily but helplessly. Just as Chunwoo was about to act, the old steward stopped him in time, his voice serious. "Master saw it." Chunwoo's eyes widened, breath tightening as he realized something terrifying was happening. Without hesitation, the old steward used a silver needle to pierce his own acupoint, blood trickling from his neck, a ritual seal from ancient times activated. The doctor placed a hand on Chunwoo's shoulder, his voice grave with warning, "He is still a patient." Ji Chunwoo sneered coldly, declaring, "From now on he will always be a patient. Don't stop me, prepare the medicine." Hwa Yoon stepped forward, eyes sharp as knives. "Or, the one who becomes the patient will be you, Chunwoo." He smiled meaningfully. "The medicine should be ready right, a Mayui. How far can it go?" Chunwoo's face flushed with rage, gritting his teeth. "You despicable coward, how dare you!" The old doctor tightened his grip on Chunwoo's shoulder, his gaze stern and pressuring, stopping the impending outburst. Chung Hwa sensed something strange. The man seemed to be enjoying the situation. He didn't resist. Instead, he cooperated, answering every question as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Chung Hwa realized his current identity. He was the fourth young master of the Sun Palace, only 15 years old. His father, the Sun Palace Lord, had once boiled his own son alive to forge the solar pill, showing his mind had gone mad. Not only did his father want to kill him, shadows and assassins from everywhere silently hunted him. Though this life's fate was dark, Chung Hwa possessed the solar heart. No poison could harm him. A slow but burning heartbeat echoed in Hwa Yoon's chest, as if a real sun had been engraved deep within his body. Old memories flooded back. Hwa Yoon died in his 7th year, but now it was his 22nd. He realized he had returned after 15 years. Faced with Mayui's determination, Ji Chunwoo reluctantly withdrew, leaving a tense atmosphere behind. But he didn't forget to warn. Chunwoo's blazing red eyes erupted with killing intent as he declared his role as older brother. Killing intent spread. Ji Chunwoo suppressed his anger, preparing to unleash a deadly warning with the power of one above authority. He coldly emphasized, "A sharp tongue only exists while intact." Hwa Yoon met the deadly gaze without fear. Ji Chunwoo smiled maliciously, leaving a cold threat before departing, abandoning Hwa Yoon struggling to stand after the blow. Hwa Yoon suspiciously asked Mayui about the dark skill, clearly sensing the red aura still spreading around his body. Hwa Yoon gasped in pain, realizing Ji Chunwoo had injected demonic energy into his meridians, a malicious internal martial art that could destroy the body from within. The demonic energy penetrated deeper, attacking his organs, but amid the blazing chaos, another energy was rising. Hwa Yoon smiled confident, activating the solar heart, a new power that harmonized with the demonic energy, protecting his body from shattering. Mayui sneered, mocking Ji Chunwoo's cheap tricks, while Hwa Yoon replied sarcastically, clearly triumphant after his first inner victory. The young man held his forehead, embarrassed when questioned about his name. The old man frowned, asking, "That name, was it really given by your mother, Sua?" He blushed, a faint smile crossing his lip. A sly thought flashed, "Let them misunderstand, isn't that better?" The man sighed, turning away, advising, "Just say you have amnesia." Lord Ill believed it and left. He simply replied, "Understood." His calm attitude reassured the other. Before leaving the room, the man turned back and threw a remark, "At least you know how to answer." The sky was clear blue, white clouds drifting lazily, a peaceful moment before the undercurrents silently stirred. On the 5th day since becoming a disciple, sunlight shone on the quiet sect grounds, signaling an impending change. A hurried step hit the tiled floor, stirring dust, a sign someone arrived with a clear purpose. The young man's eyes widened, light flashing in his gaze. Surprise and tension mingled as he sensed something unusual. The old man in yellow robes raised his hand, pointing directly at the young man's forehead. A fierce aura flared as a transmission ritual began. In his subconscious, a voice echoed, "Mayui is a martial art compatible with Ilwal Seongshin of the Ma sect founder's sanction. If I master the life and death Jukbi technique, I can fully unleash the solar power beating in this heart." The young man performed moves in the courtyard, his body spinning amid blazing red fire energy. Mastering the life and death technique would put even Hwashin Deramu within reach. The old man chuckled softly, his eyes shining with unhidden joy, as if witnessing a precious seed beginning to sprout. His laughter echoed through the room. He praised, "Excellent, very good." With a serious gaze he said, "From now on call me master. I will teach you the martial art that fully harnesses the solar heart power, starting with Singsabak, the Ma sect's strongest technique." Red flames swirled around the young man's body as he continued practicing Hwashin Deramu, each move precise and bursting with power. The young man's spirit blazed, confident inside. The martial path has 84,000 ways, never betraying anyone. A familiar melody played, hummed by a white-haired man. He whistled softly, causing the surrounding air to seem to pause. The young man immediately recognized it, his eyes brightening. Master Yones, a familiar spiritual image appeared midair, emitting a faint blue glow. To the young man, Hwashin Deramu was more than a martial art. It was a dance in harmony with his master's flute. It was life itself, a power surging within his heart. He raised both hands, the blazing red heart clearly visible in his palm. Solar energy flared, as if ready to break through his body's limits. His eyes shone brightly as he soared into the night sky, surrounded by red butterflies and burning rays, immersed in an endless dance. Red fiery energy surged around his body, stretching like a celestial flame, marking the full awakening of Hwashin Deramu. Flames roared fiercely around him, each leap tearing through space, unstoppable power pouring forth. He paused, a faint smile on his lips, his gaze indifferent, as if the dance had been nothing more than a casual performance. From afar, a long-haired man approached, eyes scrutinizing. The other calmly turned, standing beside the fallen man's body. The newcomer inquired, but the answers were vague. The previous actions were no coincidence, they seemed orchestrated. Inside the room, the elder silently gestured for silence, his eyes full of meaning as he looked at the young man beside him. The door creaked open, darkness flooding in with something approaching. The recent lies were about to be exposed. The elder looked down at Hwa Yoon, reminding him that without a core mental technique, all his moves were hollow. Hwa Yoon inwardly acknowledged the elder's sharp insight. He had sensed the true essence behind Hwashin Deramu. Hwa Yoon leaned forward curiously, asking if the man remembered. The man, calm and indifferent, simply said no. The man confidently introduced himself as Ilseonchen, Northern Warlord and Law Canon Lord of the Solar Divine Palace. With calm yet steady eyes, Hwa Yoon revealed his name without hesitation. Internally questioning the relevance of his identity, Hwa Yoon focused on the bigger concern, whether Ilseonchen was friend or foe. "Oh dear Mayui, has he lost his memory? He seriously doesn't recognize his own brother. No, this is the first time the two of you have met, as far as I know. Haha, seems I was mistaken." Then again, who would pay attention to a worm crawling in the palace dirt? To birds soaring high, worms on the ground are invisible. I won't use inner power, I'll only use my right hand. A martial duel, not a bad opponent, but all I did was dance. Ilseonchen clenched his fist, declaring that even a simple dance could become a deadly weapon with intent. In a sudden, powerful move, he launched a fierce strike towards Hwa Yoon, intending to test the youth's strength. But Hwa Yoon, calm and unshaken, met his brother's insult with piercing words and a steady gaze. The unexpected declaration left everyone in shock. Was this really the same boy they once knew? With a mocking smile, the first young master belittled Hwa Yoon, questioning his worth and memory. Yet what came next caught even Ilseonchen off guard. Hwa Yoon moved like lightning. Ilseonchen was flung backward, eyes wide in shock as he failed to react react in time. Hwa Yoon clenched his fist, eyes sharp, delivering a powerful strike. A spiraling gust followed Hwa Yoon's punch, ripping through the air toward his target. Hwa Yoon's collar was suddenly grabbed, pulling him back, though he remained calm. The man hurled insults, calling Hwa Yoon the child of a nameless, lowly woman. Ilseonchen was horrified to realize Hwa Yoon had just used Changbyup Changlinjolak, a forbidden technique. Hwa Yoon descended like lightning, his fist charged with force crashing straight into the ground. The shockwave exploded outward like a storm, forcing his opponent to retreat. The man in black was stunned. The boy had no internal energy, yet his strike felt like a sharp spear. Though he intended not to use inner power, he instinctively did, and still lost in a single move. Hwa Yoon bowed politely, asking direct, "Are you really Master Sa?" Then, blinking innocently, he suggested, "Then we should go for 2 moves, right?" As Lord Ilseonchen descended with force, the youth realized too late the threat of the blade. The strike came swift and precise, more like swordsmanship than brute force. Caught in the defensive spell, the youth felt its pressure surround him tightly. He realized this restriction was also a test, an opportunity to grow through safe combat. Ilseonchen smirked, launching a lightning-fast counter. "You're still lacking, Master Sa." Master Sa's eyes burned with resolve. He knew he must surpass even the pinnacle of the Sun Palace. Master Sa smiled brightly, praising the spectacular bout and calling it a dance. Ilseonchen admitted he intended to hand over a shield, but didn't expect Master Sa to already wield such a sharp blade. Ilseonchen shared that with enough time, building internal energy is easy. What's hard is cultivating true strength in a person. Master Sa smiled awkwardly, thinking time might be the problem, then got flustered when asked, "Where did you learn that dance?" An elderly man stepped in, revealing that Master Sa had no memories at all, leaving Ilseonchen stunned. The old man added that some memories might return over time. Inwardly, Master Sa felt relieved his teacher showed up just in time. The Lord of the North was surprised by Jang Myong's sudden talkativeness, but quickly shifted to asking why he came. Jang Myong revealed he came to deliver an order from the palace lord, possibly influenced by the Mokenho, but official nonetheless. Jang Myong lowered his head, burdened by the highest order. He quietly thought, "I'll have to follow it right." Master Sa knelt for the first time in his life. Not even before the emperor had he done so. Now, he was merely a disciple of the Sun Palace. Jang Myong announced that Master Sa had recovered and would attend the name bestowal ceremony tomorrow at Chilgek Pavilion. Master Sa was startled to realize he didn't officially have a name, which explained why others were surprised when he introduced himself. Hwa Yoon knelt, eyes firm. No matter what, he would remain himself. Jang Myong silently observed Hwa Yoon, quietly surprised by his composed demeanor. The gray-haired man repeated, "I told you he has no memories. Why even bother testing him?" Nevertheless, Hwa Yoon cheerfully joked with his master after everything had passed. Though still recovering, Hwa Yoon retained his usual playful and witty spirit. Reflecting silently, Hwa Yoon accepted that, as a branch of the demonic cult, rituals might be inevitable. In the shadows, a masked figure watches silent, his crimson eye glowing with hostility. Hwa Yoon recalls the same cold words from the assassins who once tried to end his life. Suspicion grows. Did the palace lord send those assassins too? But all he hears is the cold decree. Though confused, Hwa Yoon accepts the scroll handed to him without hesitation. The ceremonial scroll passes from hand to hand, sealing a fate yet unknown. The messenger speaks calmly. Memories may fade or vanish, but duty remains. Hwa Yoon freezes for a moment as he hears the state. If not for the incident, Master Sa's life would have remained the same. The man smiles and congratulates him, assuring that strength will change Hwa Yoon's life. When Hwa Yoon expresses doubt, the man calmly replied, "He is the son of Sua and the son of the palace lord." With a satisfied smile, the man leaves, leaving Hwa Yoon standing in silence with the old guardian. Gazing at the sunset, Hwa Yoon murmured, "This place, where the palace lord ordered him to return." Chilgek Pavilion appears in ruins under the fading light. Hwa Yoon whispers, "A ruin, isn't it?" The boy paused, sensing something unfamiliar as the sun set behind him. A voice echoed from inside the pavilion, inviting him in without hesitation. Sitting confidently under warm lamplight, Jetchenhyok introduced himself with a smirk. As he approached, Jetchenhyok mentioned Ma Yui's report about his memory loss. The boy clenched his chest, fire-like energy flickering from his hands, unstable and raw. Though the power stirred violently, he still couldn't wield it to its fullest. Hwa Yoon gently closed his eyes, channeling energy, each movement imbued with solar power. Flames engulfed his body as light burst forth in a moment of awakening. Jetchenhyok smirked, his cold voice slicing through the tense atmosphere. He charged like a beast, eyes fierce as he declared his brutal intent. Hwa Yoon recalled his master's words about the madman named Jetchenhyok, his own brother. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. The only choice was clear: kill or be killed. Jechin-hyuk smirked wildly, his eyes burning with challenge. He couldn't believe someone as weak as Sa Mumyong dared to stand against him. He growled, mocking his opponent for flapping gums instead of striking. Yet deep down, Jechin-hyuk couldn't shake off a growing unease. Mumyong clenched his fists as red energy surged around him. He had touched upon a hidden core of martial perfection, something long sought. With unwavering resolve, Mumyong vowed to master the solar heart and achieve Ilwal Seongshan, something he failed to do in his previous life. Jechin-hyuk swung his blade and laughed arrogantly, calling him a little brother just met. To him, a dying struggle was nothing but pitiful comedy. But Mumyong responded with a cold smile. He feared nothing. A mad dog needs a beating, he declared, ready to deliver the final blow. Jechin-hyuk charged forward like a beast, his blade surging with furious energy. His eyes gleamed with twisted glee as his sword slashed forward in a brilliant arc. Hwa Yoon didn't block directly. Instead, he infused his energy into a blade-shaped chi construct. He burst forward, gaze unwavering, all doubt forgot. Now was the time to fight. Jechin-hyuk looked mildly surprised at his opponent's speed, his eyes turning serious. But he quickly regained his mocking demeanor, spewing taunts with venomous delight. Jechin-woo kept his composure, taunting his opponent with a confident smile and sharp words. He realized the man wasn't as easily provoked as expected. Elsewhere, an older man was visibly startled upon hearing the name mentioned. His expression changed immediately. He laughed, calling it a name fit for a martial god. Still, he reminded that life and death were now in the hands of the one standing before him. The senior mocked Jechin-woo, admitting his taunts were sharper than even his swordsmanship. Jechin-woo retorted directly, stating his words were better than the man's sword skills. In his heart, he knew Jechin-woo's name had now become part of the fight. The man lowered his stand, gripping his sword tightly. He was about to get serious. He smirked mockingly, pressing on the hatred the other holds inside. Before he could react, he was launched upward and slammed back down to the ground. An older man appeared, sneering at the one called Sa, saying he should at least carry a shield to protect himself. The ponytailed youth stiffens upon hearing the chilling words, "You'll have to survive tonight." Before he can comprehend it, the old man throws a fierce punch straight at his face. His gaze turns cold as he responds to the provocation with a growl, "What do you know?" The young man conjures a dark, swirling energy, his smirk laced with menace. With a knowing gaze, the other man recalls the truth. Only Bansua held the Lord's heart. Confusion flashes across his opponent's face. His grip falters under the weight of the revelation. But the man in black only sneers, "You've got it all wrong." A storm brews in the young man's heart. Was he truly loved or merely a pawn? Despite the chaos, he smiles with resolve. "First, I need to survive." The long-haired man slowly raised his sword, smirking as he mocked the insult toward the palace lord. He emphasized the first rule of the solar divine palace: only those with names are considered people. And since you have no name, no one would care if you died. The sword tip trembled slightly, poised to strike at any moment. His left shoulder lifted, a clear sign he'd slashed down from the right. The youth smiled, channeling blazing red power, quoting a famous monk from a bygone era. Standing at the end of a 100-foot pole, the young man bravely takes one more step. To the one who steps into death, a new world shall open. The burly man is struck down, screaming in pain as he's thrown backward. Despite the injury, he grips his dual swords tightly and strikes back in a flash. The young man twists to evade, eyes sharp, unfazed by the counterattack. Crimson energy surges around. Clenching his fist, he growls, "Good," ready to strike the final blow. The young man unleashed his ultimate move, but his opponent was prepared. North Martial Lord had once given him the key to counter it. The man roared, unleashing his full power, his eyes sharp with determination as he struck back. The young man closed his eyes as a crimson aura enveloped. His heartbeat thundered. Something overwhelming was awakened. His fists clenched tightly, glowing red like flame. He readied himself to unleash an unstoppable finishing blow. The young man charged like lightning, delivering a fierce spinning kick that caught his enemy off guard. A sudden sword strike came from behind. In that instant, he had to turn to face a new threat. The young man stood tall, crimson aura swirling around. His opponent fell to his knees, speechless and trembling. Terrifying. Now everything is going according to plan. The tied-hair man eyed the boy, calculating, could this talent be innate? A blazing red strike erupted, launching the enemy like a storm of fury. The impact shook the ground. Amid the rising dust, an old man appeared, his eyes stern and commanding. The old man emerged through the smoke. Behind him, the long-haired young man gasped in awe. The young man knelt on one knee, hands clasped in respect, his gaze firm with reverence and resolve. "Elder Yang, that guy is mine." "Enough. The second young master's life doesn't belong to him alone." The heir of the Silent Cloud Assembly must not be defeated. The young man was shocked. The elder's hand was injured after blocking just one strike. "I will handle it right here, right now." Purple aura swirled around him. He took full responsibility for what was to come. He channeled energy into his hand, calm yet focused. That's clearly the realm of a perfected master. With my current strength there's no chance, but if I can make him drop his guard, I might create an opening. You think I'll let you run? The elder unleashed his power, blocking the young man's escape instantly. Glancing at the old man interfering, the long-haired young man scoffed with a mocking smile. He suddenly grabbed the old man's wrist, tightening his grip as a warning. The messenger declared the palace lord's order, demanding Master Sa's submission. Master Sa calmly accepted the command, his gaze unwavering. The cold word "next" rang out, making the old man tremble with fury. Master Sa held his opponent in a firm lock, coolly announcing, 18 more to go. Elder Yang trembled in fury and fear, unable to comprehend how he ended up at the mercy of someone so ruthless. The young man's voice was calm but commanding. He made it clear who was in control, warning Yang not to test him further. A desperate opponent threatened to spare their lives if Hayek was handed over, only to be met with contempt and a crushing grip. Sa Gongja restrained his enemy with ease, mocking him for his earlier arrogance. A sinister grin spread across Gongja's face as he promised to spare his captive, but something more painful was coming. Blood burst from the man's mouth as Gongja dealt a brutal blow, sarcastically suggesting he beg Elder Yang now. Elder Yang clenched his fists, trembling as Sa Gongja compared him to a mad dog, pushing him to make a choice. Sa Gongja proposed a cruel deal: destroy your own Danshin, or watch the second young master die. Holding his captive tightly, Sa Gongja laid the stakes bare: Elder Yang's martial arts or the heir's life. A twisted grin spread across Sa Gongja's face. He was ready to see which one Elder Yang valued more. Faced with the unbearable choice, Elder Yang turned his back, silent and visibly shaken. The captive glanced at Sa Gongja in surprise, realizing something unexpected was unfolding. Elder Yang watched in silence, realizing the rift between the two heirs had only grown deeper, and that too benefited. Sa Gongja reflected inwardly. Above all else, he must survive. The long night was ending, and dawn was near. A voice called out to Elder Yang, snapping him from his thoughts, but he remained visibly tense and conflicted. A sudden explosion erupted violently. The battlefield shifted as powers clashed in a blinding burst of red light. Two elders engaged in a hushed conversation through telepathy, shielding their words from others. Watching from afar, Sa Gongja regretted his current weakness. Even eavesdropping on telepathy was now beyond. Sa Gongja touched his temple, eyes clouded with doubt, as he began to question the truth of his own origin. Elder Yang roared in fury, appalled that Sa Gongja was still talking about lineage at a moment like this. A man in black suddenly charged in from nowhere. A commanding figure stopped Elder Yang, stating that this was merely a childish squabble between Sa Gongja and Jechenhyo. The man forced Sa Gongja to accept the rule that the strong may take everything from the weak. He proclaimed this is the foundation of the demonic sect, the 1,000-year-old law, then asked Sa Gongja what he intended to take. Jechenhyok raged, insulted that a nameless brat like Sa Gongja was being acknowledged under the law of survival of the fittest. Jechenhyok was stunned when the man revealed that Sa Gongja already had a name, one given by his mother. Wearing a confident smile, Sa Gongja Hwa Yoon asserted his right as the victor. He could take anything from Jechenhyok. Elder Yang erupted in fury, refusing to accept Sa Gongja's threat to Jechenhyok's life. However, as he drew his blade, Elder Yang was stopped by the commanding presence of the North Martial Lord behind. The North Martial Lord calmly confirmed that life could indeed be taken under their laws. Elder Yang challenged, North Martial Lord, do you think we'll let this slide? But the North Martial Lord coldly replied, and if I do? As someone called out North Martial Lord, a stern figure stepped forward, declaring himself the law-keeper of the Solar Palace. He dismissed their squabbling as beneath his concern. Jechenhyok trembled on the ground, his hands bloody. His terrified eyes widened as he was mocked, called nothing more than a filthy bug crawling on the floor. Sa Gongja smiled coldly, bending down to ask if he wanted to live. When Jechenhyok hesitated in confusion, Sa Gongja repeated the question with disdain. As Jechenhyok burst out in rage, Sa Gongja considered it silently. If possible, killing him would be cleaner, no loose ends. But with a calm breath he reassessed. Jechenhyok still had powerful backing. Right now, this was their stage. The answer became obvious in Sa Gongja's mind. Everything depended on the will of the strongest in the room. The North Martial Lord appeared, emanating overwhelming pressure. He had witnessed everything from the start, yet chose to step in and mediate immediately. Faced with an unchangeable situation, Hwa Yoon reluctantly agreed to back down this time. The elders and Jechenhyok were left utterly shocked. None had expected such a sudden reversal. Jechenhyok roared in agony as Hwa Yoon drove a blade into his chest, blood spurting in a storm of horror. Calmly, Hwa Yoon pointed down as Jechenhyok knelt, trembling, then declared coldly, let's settle it with this. From behind, the elders could only nod in silent agreement. Very well. The North Martial Lord raised his hand light. A powerful aura rippled through the air, silencing everyone without a word. He calmly ordered Elder Yangmongson to withdraw from the confrontation and return to the Silent Cloud Assembly, ending the clash immediately. Two brothers faced faced off beneath the burning sunset. The battle ahead would be anything but merciful. The man with sunglasses grinned mockingly. He accepted the provocation, but warned that he'd let it slide just this once. Sogongja Hwa Yoon smirked, realizing his taunt worked. Perhaps blood ties were Jechinhyok's only vulnerability. The North Martial Lord delivered his final judgment. The trespassing would be addressed later, and no punishment would be given for the fight, because the defeated Jechinhyok accepted the outcome of his own will. Jechinhyok smugly put his arm around Elder Yang, mocking him by bringing up the low-born mother who gave him a name. The Solar Palace Lord responded coldly, stating firmly that his standards would not change. Enraged, Jechinhyok charged with a fierce strike, screaming that despite their shared blood, they were nothing alike. Hwa Yoon flinched at the incoming attack, yet his eyes stayed calm, facing his brother's fury head-on. As he lunged, Jechinhyok raged inwardly at Hwa Yoon's face, too similar to the Solar Palace Lord, desperately trying to deny that connection. Suppressing his fury, Jechinhyok walked away with Elder Yang, leaving behind a sharp warning for Hwa Yoon ahead of the naming ceremony. The North Martial Lord drew his sword and congratulated Hwa Yoon, who won without unsheathing his own. Hwa Yoon quietly accepted the gesture, adding a calm warning, "Try to survive tomorrow as well." Jechinhyok gritted his teeth in fury, glaring at the one who provoked him. His rage flared, Jinhyok's eyes turned crimson, as if long-restrained instincts were awakened. As the North Martial Lord turned to leave, he instantly sensed a violent aura rushing in from behind. Hwa Yoon looked up, quietly affirming to himself he was no longer Hwa Yoon of the North. Hwa Yoon gritted his teeth as he knelt on the ground. For a moment, the tip of his sword trembled, proof that the verbal jab had hit a nerve. Standing tall, Jechinhyok mocked him coldly, questioning if he'd really grovel just to survive. Then came the final taunt, "Grow up, Jechinhyok." Elsewhere, someone arrived at a peaceful forest and looked up at the sky. The question lingered in the air. Did Sogongja really once live in such a quiet place? With a relaxed smile, the man beside him shrugged. "Is that money coming out of our pockets? We have no choice, third young master." The third young master chuckled, waving it off. "Me, as if I'm some noble like Sogongja." Then he added, almost proudly, "I'm Jechin, your older brother." As the carriage rolled toward Bangwa Twin Peaks, the journey's purpose became clear. At the ceremony, just nod and say yes, he advised. No need to be nervous. The attendants informed Hwa Yoon that once he received his name, he would start receiving support funds from the Solar Palace, enough to repair Chiliagak and get new gear. Dressed in a ceremonial robe, Hwa Yoon stayed silent. Although the robe felt oversized, its flowing design looked rather elegant, but the endless chatter was testing his patience. Jechinhin, still smiling, brought up a chaotic past involving Elder Yang from the Silent Cloud Society, as if it were casual gossip. As the sun set, Hwa Yoon reflected on his fate. If his father truly loved him, he wouldn't have abandoned him here. He wasn't discarded by accident. He had been chosen. The Solar Palace Lord himself had ordered Hwa Yoon's return to Chiliag. That decision set everything in motion and left Hwa Yoon questioning his intention. After quietly listening to it all, Hwa Yoon finally muttered, "I've just heard now," his voice laced with disbelief. Jechinhin paused, his eyes wide in surprise. Hwa Yoon's quiet response had clearly caught him off guard. Still, he kept his smile and shifted the mood. "But hey," he said, attempting to lighten the atmosphere again. Hwa Yoon narrowed his eyes. He could feel the hidden thorns behind Jechinhin's words. "So the fangs are coming out now." Jechinhin's smirk deepened as he hinted at something more. "That stone turning out that way," he said, leaving the rest unsaid but menacing. Suddenly, a powerful strike erupted. Hwa Yoon retaliated, his energy flaring in a burst of brilliant force that rocked the surroundings. Across from him, the attacker lunged forward with a vicious roar. "Now die," he shouted, swinging his blade in a killing blow. Hwa Yoon braced himself, sweat beading on his brow. His clenched fists revealed one thing: the provocation had its intended effect. Behind him, Jechinhin appeared calm, but a fierce spectral tiger roared above. "They say you're the one who did it," he said with a chilling smile. "This one's complicated," Hwa Yoon admitted. "Honestly, the first or second ones were more straightforward, but yeah, they came at me." Changing the subject, Hwa Yoon turned to Jechinhin. "No, not that. I want you to tell me a story." Jechinhin smiled faintly. "A story about what?" "About everything," Hwa Yoon replied. Jechinhin chuckled, his tone light but meaningful. "That's not exactly fair, is it?" Hwa Yoon lowered his gaze, thought, maybe I'll try a different method." In a sudden burst of theatrics, Hwa Yoon clasped Jechinhin's hands with mock sincerity, shouting dramatically, "Brother, I'm counting on you." Jechinhin, unfazed, exhaled sharply as if he had seen this coming all along. Still holding the pose, Hwa Yoon's tone soft. "I'm counting on you," he repeated, then casually added, "Or not, your call." The mood hung in a playful tension between earnestness and sarcasm. On the other side, the opponent gritted his teeth in disbelief. His pupils trembled. He hadn't expected the situation to escalate so suddenly. With a powerful swing, Hwa Yoon unleashed a blazing fist wrapped in crimson energy. The fierce, storm-like attack surged forward with overwhelming force. Recognizing the technique, the opponent shouted, "This is the incarnated fist," as he was caught right in the middle of Hwa Yoon's intense strike. Back in a calmer moment, Jechenhin laughed heartily. "I didn't know my little brother had such flair. Ask whatever you want," he grinned. "Normally I charge people for this, but since it's you, I'll answer like a proper big brother." Hwa Yoon leans forward with a playful smirk and asks, "What happens if someone heading to the naming ceremony already has a name?" Jechenhin looks up in surprise, caught off guard. Suspicious, Hwa Yoon notices figures spreading out in every direction. He narrows his eyes, thinking, they're each spreading out systematically. What are they planning? A perimeter sweep trap? Jechenhin, still seated calmly, asks, "So you have a name?" Hwa Yoon replies, "Hwa Yoon, that's my name." Jechenhin compliments him. "Honestly, it's a great name. Sounds like it belongs to a martial god." Trying not to sound too curious, Jechenhin asks, "Did your mother give it to you?" Hwa Yoon pauses, annoyed. "Every time I say my name, people bring up my mom," he thinks. "I need to get that info out naturally." Jechenhin asks again, "Does anyone else know you have a name?" Then, raising a brow, he adds, "If not, you could just get a new one today." A mental list forms in Hwa Yoon's mind. Yes, first young master Jechenwu, second young master Jechenhyuk, elder O of Mount Yangmeng, lawkeeper Yulbyopjeonju Il Seanchin, and Mayui the name giver. He sighs inwardly. "You've got to be kidding." Jechenhin wipes his face in frustration. Even Yulbyopjeonju and the Silent Cloud Society, everyone who shouldn't know already does. There's no way to bluff my way out now. Hwa Yoon, calm and direct, replies, "Is that so?" Jechenhin finally gives in. "Fine, I'll explain. The naming ceremony is held only for the Solar Palace Lord's direct bloodline. It's a public declaration of recognition and a showcase of power, usually done at age 10, but in your case." Hwa Yoon reflect bitterly. "I'm the son of a nameless woman called Sua. Even the Lord abandoned me. For 5 whole years, I was treated like I didn't exist in the palace." Elsewhere, another figure explains, "Actually, everyone had a childhood name before the ceremony. Even the third young master. His name was Dan Wukaya. Childhood names aside. Warrior Yoon, that's not the issue." The man continues firmly. "The fourth young master already used his name to invoke the law of strength above all, and he did it directly with Yulbyopjeonju's knowledge. You can't just brush it off as a childhood name." Jechenhin watches Hwa Yoon closely. This guy usually plays dumb, but he talks like he saw everything firsthand. Does he have spies in the Silent Cloud Society? As Hwa Yoon recalls the energy felt during a handshake, the truth begins to dawn. His childhood name is Dan Wukyoung. The realization forms. If that's true, then his real identity is. But a sudden thought halts him. If someone like him is revealing this much to my face, then the other man warns, the ceremony is in the main palace. All 3 solar lords will be there. If you reject the name in public, it could go bad. Hwa Yoon wonders aloud, would they really kill me? The man grimaces, wiping his face. No one knows how the Lord will act, but one thing for sure, he can't stand having his authority questioned. A smile spreads across the man's face. Exactly, and that rebellious faction is us. With sharp eyes, he continues, "We're not like the Black Flame or the Orthodox cult. We're different from those old locals from Jin Palace." Then casually, he asks again, "What was your name again?" A new voice joins in mockingly. "So I'll have to become your underling, huh?" Then almost teasingly, "Ooh, but you're my little brother." As a purple storm of energy erupts, Dan Wukyoung leaps into the fray. His reckless charge nearly ends in disaster. A narrow dodge saves him from having his skull cracked. An elderly master strikes with unrelenting force, his attack sweeping through the air. Dan Wukyoung barely ducks in time, the pressure still brushing past. The elder's power reaches its peak. Dark energy crackles along his veins, eyes glowing with a terrifying purple aura. His killing intent is clear. Dan Wukyoung counters with a fierce grin, his speed blurring as he charges forward, forcing the elder onto the defensive. From the shadows, the shirtless enemy realizes too late. Dan Wukyoung was never after the elder. From the beginning, my target was you. With a powerful blow, Dan Wukyoung lands a devastating punch on his true target, blood erupting as he strikes. Under the still moonlight, a tree branch sways gently in the breeze, signaling that something is about to change. The elder charges forward in fury, ready to strike, but suddenly freezes. What the? He gasps, startled. Hwa Yoon intercepts swiftly, grabbing the unconscious enemy and yelling, "Stop!" The room falls silent in shock. A shadowy group offers to take Hwa Yoon past the southern coast, into the central plains full of monsters. "How would we even get there?" he asks suspiciously. A boy calls Hwa Yoon brother in gratitude, but still wonders how he survived. Hwa Yoon smiles. "I even shattered your grandfather Dan Jumseong's Black Knight Mirage." Hwa Yoon smirks coldly, remembering the painful visions forced upon him. "Compared to that illusion, my last life was far worse." The young man stands in silence, eyes filled with thought. Behind him, another figure nervously awaits his elder's response. He smiles faintly and calmly says, "You still have time, think it through." He adds, voice soft but firm, "Whether that stage becomes your execution ground is entirely up to you." A voice calls out, "Let's move out," as the escort departs the grand palace with solemnity. In a majestic hall, a commanding figure announces, "Today's nomming candidate, fourth young master Nameless, enter." The carriage stopped before the main hall. The so-called fourth young master stepped forward alone, his fate awaiting him. As the carriage neared the main gate, the guards immediately shouted, "Halt." A graceful man stepped forward, smiling as he questioned the guards. "During the nomming ceremony, who could you possibly be waiting for?" An authoritative elder, called Lord Mai, confronted, nodding it had been a while since they last met, addressing him as the third prince. The third prince responded with a seemingly innocent question, hinting at his intention to proceed forward. Lord Mai replied bluntly he was waiting for Hwa Yoon, the younger brother of the third prince. Meanwhile, Hwa Yoon held his hostage tight, unwilling to trust any of the enemy's promises, fearing for Hyok's safety. With a steady grip on Jechin Hyok, the dark-haired youth warned that if this standoff continued, both would die. His sharp gaze shifted to Elder Yang, telling him to watch closely. A man in a teal robe clenched his fist and questioned the other's motive. Was it all just to let someone be humiliated on the summit? He mocked the other for only showing up during official gathering. Still wearing a faint smile, the robed man mentioned that they both belonged to Sun Palace, yet the other spoke so distant. He brought up a previously ignored invitation from the Haryong merchant group. The older man responded coldly, claiming he didn't even know they shared a palace affiliation, nor did he feel obligated to clean up the mess of the other's faction. His words were interrupted by someone calling his name, Elder Mai. A set of blinds rustled gently in the breeze, signaling a change in the atmosphere. Perhaps someone important was about to appear. The dark-haired protagonist looked up with mixed curiosity and alertness. Despite the tension, he calmly signaled, "Let us proceed," hiding his deeper thoughts. The elder announced their departure, addressing the young man as the third prince. The prince looked startled as the weight of his title sank in. Though silent, the prince's expression was filled with inner tension. He tried to mask his apprehension. The elder brother reassured him with a gentle warning, reminding the young prince that he had no one else. The third prince put on his ceremonial hat himself. The elder beside him praised his appearance, saying the clothes suited him well. The prince responded with gratitude. The elder explained his presence. He had heard from the northern martial sovereign about the prince's victory, witnessed even by Elder Yang. As they climbed the stone steps, the elder expressed his amazement. The third prince, untrained in martial arts, had achieved victory. The prince humbly credited his master. The elder frowned, unimpressed by empty praise, and told the prince to save such flattery for more fitting time. Doubt filled the elder's mind. He questioned if the fourth prince secretly mastered martial arts, then suspected the Sun Core's power. A man engulfed in dark energy screamed in rage, calling out "Sa Gongja," with fury burning in his eyes. A blinding crimson energy wave tore through the air, signaling the unleashing of an overwhelming force. As they walked, the elder confirmed the prince now controlled the Sun Core without the life-death trigram, and declared his future unstoppable. But there was a warning: if the prince survived today, the second prince and Silent Cloud sect were on edge, and sect leader Jangson might soon intervene. Under the moonlight, a powerful figure unleashed his sword technique, declaring martial arts enforcement with unwavering authority. He addressed Elder O Yongmongson sternly, reminding him that as a member of Silent Cloud Assembly, he could not roam the palace at night. When asked about the first prince's faction, a sharp-witted man analyzed the other sects, nodding which were passive and which might act. The elder nodded in understanding, then leaned in with a serious warning, urging the prince to remember what was to come. The older brother smiled as he warned with a soft tone, "Today might be safe, but danger still lurks. Those enemies must never be trusted." The elder sensed deceit, urging caution. He warned especially of the third prince, whose sweet words and eyes hid venomous intent. The fourth prince expressed his gratitude, but the elder reminded him, only the palace lords will truly matter. From afar, a figure silently watched the prince, curious about the secretive conversation. As the doors creaked open, the mysterious hall beckoned. The two stepped into the unknown. The court announced the ceremonial chant, "One heaven's sun, night moon's radiance." The fourth prince Mu Myong was summoned to receive his new title under watchful eye. The northern martial sovereign met with Master Jang Myong earlier. A plan must already be in motion. The fourth prince realized the power struggle was a decoy. His ally had bought him time. The hall resounded with a powerful declaration. Judgment would fall by the sun's law. The fourth prince stood solemnly before the throne, awaiting his fate. Ji Gangson, lord of the Sun Palace, rose in blazing might, the final arbiter. Awed by the power of Hua Jiang, the prince felt how small this place truly was. With divine authority, the palace lord bestowed a new name, Ji Chenmyo. All officials bowed in unison, chanting the sun and moon's title, cementing the ceremony's authority. Chenmyo lowered his head in silent turmoil, rising amidst the chorus of reverence. Lord Ji Gangson sternly questioned if the prince objected to the nomming. The answer was firm, yes. The court erupted in shock. Officials turned in disbelief at the unexpected defiance. The two elders showed clear tension, eyes filled with unease and dissatisfaction. Despite the tension, the three young men wore knowing smiles, as if everything was unfolding as planned. Ji Gangsun murmured the name Hwa Yun with grim realization. He was Sua's son. Before anyone could react, the palace lord stepped forward to address the crowd. Lord Jangsanhu declared that Hwa Yun's name wasn't a childhood alias but a concealed truth, demanding his execution. Ji Gangsun leaned down, whispering to Hwa Yun that Jangsanhu had hated him from the beginning. A shocked voice asked if Ji Chunhyuk was truly defeated. Confirmation left them shaken. The revelation continued. Hwa Yun even shattered Yang Mongshan's arm, drawing stunned silence. The Sun Palace Lord evaluated the destruction of the altar with measured calm, facing the fourth prince. With a sharp smile, the fourth prince hinted that true power came from divine favor. Ji Chunmyo surged forward, his aura erupting, revealing his first step beyond humanity. Power surged skyward. Fewer than 20 in all Zhongyuan had reached this ascension. The shockwave struck. Officials reeled back in fear and disarray. Elder masters braced themselves against the storm of spiritual pressure. Sa Gongja, mocked as the disgrace of the solar divine palace, wandered alone under moonlight. Hidden assassins closed in, but Sa Gongja turned with a calm, unfazed gaze. Meanwhile in the hall, a clash of overwhelming auras erupted between Ji Chunmyo and his foe. I could retreat, but denying myself would make it all meaningless, he resolved. Servants whispered Chunmyo was summoned by the Lord himself just yesterday. They hoped the naming ceremony would end his humiliation and change everything. With a roar that shook the hall, the fourth prince declared his true name. In the past, now, and forevermore, a vow shouted with defiance and pride. Corpses lay scattered. The assassins had fallen. A chilling discovery interrupted the silence. Hwa Yun knelt atop the dead, calm and bloody. "Was this your doing?" echoed from behind. The hall erupted in red fury. One figure rose within the blazing core, power igniting the air. Flames clashed between Hwa Yun and his enemy. Onlookers trembled before the clash of destinies. Blood still on his robe, Hwa Yun stood in stunned silence, unable to process the recognition in their eye. The Lord remained silent, his expression unreadable, yet the flames around him intensified. "Since it's your choice," he said coldly, turning away as Hwa Yun stood tall behind. A decree echoed through the hall. From now on, his name shall be Hwa Yun. In the same breath, the Lord stripped him of his status as fourth prince, casting him into trial. "You have rejected what was given," the voice declared. "Now earn your worth through action." The palace lord called out to sect leader Jangsun, setting the stage for a critical mission. A decree was issued. Jangsun must head to Nanhai and eliminate the Bloodcloak Fiend. The palace lord refused Hwa Yun's execution and instead offered a medical evaluation for Ji Chunhyuk. As the land of conflict once belonged to Jangsun's sect, he was asked to assist the expedition commander. With solemn determination, sect leader Jangsun accepted the task with honor. The palace lord summoned physician Mai to begin the next step of his plan. As the cart moved along the path, a voice echoed, demanding something in return. The man responded with a smile. "You gave, so you shall receive. Let me fix Chilyagap." The physician bowed respectfully, ready to accompany the commander on the journey ahead. Hwa Yun looked confused at the strange words, unable to grasp what needed to be seen. The palace lord raised his hand and declared solemnly, "All things by the sun's law." With one final chant, the conferral ceremony came to a close amid voices of the law. At night, the phrase "in the name of the sun's law" still lingered. Outside the lit building, someone whispered, "You've already met the palace lord before." In a private room, the old man folded a white cloth while Hwa Yun rolled up his mat. The elder said, "I must save my only disciple from death." Hwa Yun asked, "Why did you need to meet the palace lord earlier?" The silver-haired elder in a patterned yellow robe remained silent, his anxious expression seeming to weigh the answer to Hwa Yun's dangerous question. The master turned his back slowly and said, "I will teach you the 8 trigrams of life and death." The disciple was thought, sensing a rare moment, an opportunity to be together like this in the palace that would never come again. A shout rang out in the forest, "Stop, halt the carriage," causing the convoy to immediately freeze on the forest path. Hearing the shout, the man inside the carriage furrowed his brow, a sharp cold glint flashing briefly in his eyes. Immediately the guards leapt from the carriage, spreading out in high alert, ready to respond. In a quiet room, Hwa Yun asked seriously, "Who knows about the 8 trigrams of life and death?" A question that stunned those listening. The elder slowly listed. Only he, his disciple, the palace lord, and the northern martial sovereign knew, but he did not rule out the possibility of a spy. The disciple quietly replied, "I understand," while harboring unresolved doubts within. Looking into the disciple's eyes, the sharp old master realized, "You must have packed your things already." He sighed lightly. "My disciple truly is not greedy," but the other only forced a smile. "Or maybe you have nothing to bring." Memories flooded back. He once carried all kinds of weapons, armor, and spoils, all now just past relics hidden within the palace. The master solemnly called out, "Disciple." The boy calmly answered, "Yes, master." The master asked how the disciple felt about the palace lord today, then emphasized he was a Hua realm master that many warriors dreamed of meeting. The boy responded with a light smile, praising the extraordinary aura of the opponent, quietly proud that he remained calm despite lacking martial arts. Though once a war god, he admitted facing that overwhelming presence was not easy. At first, he could only grit his teeth and endure, nearly fainting. The master nodded, impressed. The disciple had done far beyond expectations, without relying on chaotic energy or the 8 trigrams of life and death. He mentioned the Yang heart pill inside the boy's body, a mysterious item only recorded when an ancient figure used it to comprehend the life and death diagram. The disciple resolved to actively learn like his master. He asked what made the 8 trigrams of life and death so difficult to cultivate. The master lit a candle and pointed seriously at the flame. The greatest challenge was what was about to happen next. Worried, the boy asked, what if he refused? The cold answer, someone once had to tear open their own chest to implant it. His eyes widened. The red light from the box flared up, revealing the so-called heart core right before it. A warning sounded. Whether Ji Chun Wu or Ji Chun Hyuk, no one would protect. Even the Silent Cloud Assembly might seize this chance to eliminate. The young boy saw images of 2 men, one burly, one elderly, within the hazy smoke of memories. A pressing question echoed in his mind. Why are you exempt from all this? He quickly shifted his thoughts. To survive, he needed a third force to intervene, since neither current faction could be trusted. An elder led him to a table holding a strange glowing object. He explained it wasn't a physical item, but a secret technique intertwining thoughts into the life-death acupoints. He asked solemnly, have you ever heard of the world's karma? The boy was confused, thinking it was just ordinary sins, but his intuition told him it was something deep. The elder explained, it's an ancient concept born from a forgotten curse. All sins and malice of living beings are woven into a single entity called the chaotic life. The elder introduced the pill inside the box as the chaotic life pill. The boy was stunned. This was the name his master Enhan had once mentioned. Coincidence or fate? A mysterious gaze appeared amid swirling purple energy, accompanied by a suspicious name, Harong Trading Co., the third party entering the game. In the jungle, Harong's group manifested. They declared they would intervene and protect him, but openly admitted they expected a worthy price. The elder explained, drinking the chaotic life pill would blur the boundary between life and death. In that state, he must practice the 8 trigrams chaotic life fist, the supreme technique of 7 form. The elder warned sternly, most people cannot withstand the intense karma and evil thoughts within the pill. His words trailed off. He had just noticed something unusual. Without hesitation, the boy swallowed the entire chaotic life pill. The elder was shocked, shouting, what have you done? Elsewhere, a mysterious figure cloaked in purple energy summoned a fierce tiger and black serpent, smirking. Just nod, and I'll tell you everything. How about it, little brother? Amid swirling demonic energy, the boy stood firm. His eyes radiated determination, ready to face the coming fate. The elder rushed forward, yelling, fool, you're supposed to take it bit by bit. The boy winced in pain. Ah, really? The next shout struck like lightning. You just swallowed poison. You could go insane at any moment. The boy's eyes widened in extreme panic. The elder was amazed to see the boy completely normal after swallowing the pill. No murderous intent, no madness, just suspicious clarity. The boy smiled, saying he only felt a strange breath briefly at first. Other than that, everything was fine. The elder's eyes widened. Could this be the special power of one possessing the solar divine heart of the sun and moon system? The boy stood up leisurely, calmly saying, a good result is just good, right? But the elder remained doubtful. Do you sense the chaotic life energy? He recalled the past, once swallowed by this very energy, losing all reason. Yet now he smiled. Feels like I just grew an extra arm. In the majestic hall, a powerful figure sat on the throne, tension thick in the air, each heartbeat echoing like a war drum. The officials lined up, bowing their heads, chanting in unison. 100,000 sun, glory of the stars and moon. The reverent chant filled the palace. Back in the room, the elder was astonished at how easily the boy accepted the chaotic life energy. But the boy just smiled, saying, you only know by trying. To me, it's familiar. The elder watched him leave, silently wondering, could this be the true manifestation of vitality? Night fell over the palace. An order was issued. Elder Hwan of Jangjiang Fortress, attend court tomorrow. Elder He, His Majesty summons you. A messenger arrived with news. Someone wished to discuss the spring sacrificial rites. They also wondered the martial god festival would be held at mid-autumn as planned. However, details remained unclear. The one silently observing the sky was He Chen-sing, elder of Hangchen Temple. His eyes suddenly widened in shock as he noticed something unusual. A blinding light suddenly burst across the night sky. He Chen-sing was stunned, murmuring, T8 this is. He quietly recalled, this scene was exactly like that day. The day they held the ritual praying for peace in the world, and also the day the revered master, former head of Hangchen, passed away. It was also that day Xian Hwa Yun appeared, the one who swallowed all the evil in the world, bringing blood and calamity. While waiting for the ceremony to begin, the prince with cold eyes observed from afar, slightly smirked as he realized his younger brother was trying to stage a meaningless power play. A nobleman reminded that the title conferral ceremony must be accompanied by the previous title hold. Without waiting, the other declared he would lead the procession up the mountain himself. In the dark hall adorned with star patterns, a figure knelt on the floor, hands stained with blood, pleading to the ancient god born from chaos. The bloodied face glowed red amid the dark aura. He whispered in pain, "Is the world still not at peace, yet you have returned?" Another man with a sly smile stepped forward saying, speaking of checking the young master's hand, "Now you understand how treacherous my disciple really is, right?" The youth smiled light, saying the injury was just a minor fracture, but the old man angrily rebutted, calling it a serious wound and criticizing the northern martial sovereign for not intervening sooner. The man in red sneered in response, claiming he acted just in time. Otherwise, that disciple could have rendered Elder Yang powerless with mere words. The youth's clear eyes suddenly recalled something. He smiled, innocent, inadvertently revealing that Elder Yang's right hand was also severely damaged. Asked about the current condition, the old physician softly replied, "Given the extent of the injury, the bone's reconnection is already a good result." The martial artist recalled that fateful night. The youth had emitted a wild aura, instinctively filled with killing intent, like a warrior hardened by countless life-and-death battles, unthinkable for someone so young. Someone reminded the youth to bow to the second master, but the martial artist immediately objected, asserting he never agreed to take on disciples. The refusal stunned everyone. The elder scoffed, mocking when the northern martial sovereign had become so petty. In reply, he repeated the earlier accusation as justification for his reaction. The old master reproached, saying it was narrow-minded to reject the admiring gaze of a new student. The youth only tilted his head in confusion, not understanding what was happening. Another voice interjected gently, defending that it was smooth talk but cleverness. Yet he still wondered why a veteran like Yang Mongshan could be so easily outwitted by a child's word. Finally, when asked why he followed them, the mysterious young man just smiled softly and said, "That's a secret." The answer deepened the mystery. The youth asked cautiously, "Is this just between us?" The northern martial sovereign remained silent, inwardly pondering whether he was included in that us. Another youth humorously interrupted, suggesting they give the two some privacy. The atmosphere briefly lightened, tinged with awkwardness. As the carriage departed, the occupants spoke suspiciously, believing someone was secretly tailing them, disrupting the important mission ahead. The northern martial sovereign spoke gravely. A blood-stained criminal was being hunted. Rumors said someone from the north was covertly acting to capture. The news shocked the other two. The Gwanggryong Jiako clan had also mobilized troops. Things were spiraling beyond expectations. Were they crazy to dare enter the Nanhai sect leader's territory? The Gwanggryong Jiako clan had long harbored a deep blood feud with the Makwun Association. Ilung, the current clan chief, had severed the arm of leader Jang Sanhu in a fierce confrontation. After being defeated, the Makwun Association was pushed back to Namhe and took over Dongbong Fortress. Since then, the Solar Divine Palace became neutral ground between Makwun and Gwanggryong Jiako, though why Gwanggryong agreed remains a great mystery. The truth was they were not acting as the Gwanggryong Jiako clan, but as representatives of the Cross Star. The envoy this time was Little Dragon, their strongest trump card who caused no chaos. Amid the gloomy sky, a warning echoed, "Remember one thing." The elder hurried forward, eyes sharp. Today's life-or-death battle depended entirely on the Palace Lord's judgment. He reminded, "You must impress the Palace Lord." In a sealed room, the man in yellow asked about the identity of the one called Little Dragon. Though unclear if male or female, the other confirmed. Among the Dragon Phoenix titles, Little Dragon is the highest honor, meaning exceptional power. When asked further about origins, the elder replied curtly, almost the main line. Then he quickly dodged, saying details were unnecessary since the two sides would never meet. With that, he left, leaving the other in silence. At Songju, dusk fell. A man stood before a large mansion, thinking, though relations have fractured, if it's to catch the blood demon, Makwun would surely cooperate. That would be best. Before he finished, the gate swung open. Someone stepped out decisively. "Impossible. Do you know who I am?" The other replied nonchalant, "Yes, you're from the main palace." When questioned why he refused, coldly said, "Order from the leader. No one from the main palace is admitted." The elder angrily declared this was a direct order from the palace lord. However, the gatekeeper refused, claiming he hadn't seen the order. Though admitting they were from the main palace, he insisted he couldn't verify if the order was genuine. Losing patience, the youth in black threw a punch straight to the gatekeeper's face, knocking him down instantly. Not stopping, he followed with a powerful kick to finish off the gatekeeper. Someone from afar shouted in alarm, "What are you doing, attacking the gatekeeper?" The youth replied calmly, "He deliberately blocked us, arguing is pointless." The elder accompanying him guessed there might have been a mistake in relaying the order due to the long distance. The youth nodded slightly, agreeing that was plausible. After a moment of silence, the youth suddenly said this place was just a small brand. They could easily wipe it out and burn it down. The elder elder was shocked, suspecting this might be a side effect of the chaotic pill. The tense atmosphere broke when the youth smiled. "Just kidding," the elder could only exclaim in horror. "What?" The youth laughed mockingly, saying he acted out of frustration. After all, he was still the fourth young master of the Sun Palace. No one dared challenge him. The elder gently reminded, "Haven't you already given up that title?" He replied nonchalantly that he hadn't received the official order yet, so technically he was still the fourth young master. The elder could only say, "Unbelievable." They left, heading toward Songju's main street. The youth joked that the place was famous for porcelain and had good resting spots. The elder doubted. "You really won't kill him?" The answer remained, "Just kidding." At night, the youth said he wanted to go out for a rare stroll. He heard Songju had no night curfew. The elder was stunned, thinking, this kid actually wants to go out on his own. Elsewhere, two officials in black robes looked surprised, asking, "You want to choose another name?" The young man named Sion Hwayun appeared confident, stepping forward and saying, "Lord Jangmyo, you missed someone. I, Sion Hwayun, also hold a key. I already have the name Hwayun." The youth took the purse and nodded in thanks. He thought that was enough for a night out to relax. The elder warned seriously, "Be careful. Out there, even the disabled can become assassins if determined." He emphasized further, "On a moonless night like this, avoid small paths." The youth replied he'd just stop by the night market to buy some things and return immediately. At the same time, another young man took a deep breath of the cool night air, thinking, "The air is so refreshing. Truly a perfect night to breathe fresh air." In the great hall, a powerful figure raised his hand decisively, eyes revealing determination and seriousness. The entire hall fell silent. The officials all knelt, except two standing opposite the leader who remained solemn. Before Hwayun, the emperor did not hide his intent, recalling how he once wanted to kill his own son, and declared he wouldn't hesitate to do it again. Though shaken inside, Hwayun held his head high, proclaiming his identity as the war god, Northern Heavenly General. Leaving the palace, Hwayun strolled through the night streets, suddenly recalling the warning, "Don't take the back alley." However, a mysterious figure waited in the shadow. He smiled coldly, saying, "Blood waits for the right moment to spill." An elder happened to witness the scene and quietly asked, "Is that blood yours, young master?" From afar, someone recognized Hwayun. He whispered suspiciously, "Hong Long, isn't it?" The elder stepped into the courtyard, his eyes shining, hands trembling in the cold air, clearly showing worry and caution. He solemnly clasped his hands and spoke farewell to the other. "I don't know which clan you belong to, but allow me to offer my final respects." The youth, with a calm smile and sharp eyes, replied, "You greeted me twice. Is it because you see me as someone already dead?" The elder froze upon hearing the name, Godikmaya Yonamcha. His expression suddenly changed, revealing fear. An assassin suddenly appeared from the rooftop, brandishing a knife aimed directly at the youth, while he remained calm, sensing the approaching danger. The elder turned his head, his gaze somber, saying nothing more. The atmosphere grew heavy and tense before the coming storm. Upon receiving the order, "Kill him," the assassins immediately charged at the youth, their swords flashing in the dark night. A voice rang out, commanding, "Choose." Ji Chunmail's face showed hesitation and tension. The voice continued challengingly, "Will you be the obedient fourth Prince Ji Chunmail, or will Hwayun accept the thorny path?" During the battle, someone noticed the opponent's strange movement and wondered, that footwork, could it be Amhin? Ji Chunmail leapt into the fight, swinging his sword powerfully, cutting down each assassin with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure stood at a distance, decisively ordering, "Eliminate." The assassins continued advancing, showing no sign of stop. Ji Chunmail realized the code was insufficient to end things. Worried innocent people might get caught, he warned Godikmaya to stop. Godikmaya sneered, provoking Ji Chunmail to try if he could. He judged the youth only knew a few spells superficially, lacking true internal power. In response, Ji Chunmail unleashed fierce energy, affirming that all emotions, from hatred to happiness, were part of him. He refused to live as an empty shell without a voice. Facing this outburst, the man in red glanced at Ji Chunmail, his eyes flashing with surprise and delight. Immediately, he began condensing a blazing fireball in his palm, preparing to deliver a decisive strike. Godikmaya's eyes widened in shock as he shouted, "Impossible," unable to believe the true power Ji Chunmail had just displayed. Ji Chunmail focused his strength, condensing radiant energy in his palm, causing the surrounding enemies to tremble in fear. He shouted loudly, summoning supreme power, "O power of the sun, awake." A blinding light pierced the sky. Chunmail roared, "Look closely, Namchan. I am the war god." Godikmaya was stunned upon recognizing the ultimate technique, Byokra Chinwangryu, something thought to exist only in legend. At the court, the ministers simultaneously sensed a powerful upheaval in heaven and earth, their faces grave. Elsewhere, two powerful figures were also startled, their eyes filled with anxiety, as if a new era had just begun. The older man confirmed the youth's guess about the Amhanin footwork, signaling as if reenacting an ancient martial art. The youth smiled mysteriously while the man laughed loudly, calling him crazy and suspiciously asked, "Who exactly are you?" The youth replied humorously that Yukmumu was a place where no questions were asked because it had no mouth. The man was stunned hearing the 6 laws of Yukmumu and admitted it had been too long since he remembered them clearly. Though still unsure of the youth's identity, the man invited him inside after hearing him mention Godic man and the golden blood drag things from a distant past. In the simple room, the man expressed regret that his home had nothing special to offer a young noble like Yukmumu was once an ancient martial sect, following a different path from the Jeong Empire. At that time, sect leader Yon Namchen submitted to Urim, who tamed the savage like a wolf pack. After the nation was established, Yukmumu transformed into an intelligence organization. Yon Namchen retired to his hometown Songju, living anonymously as a pawnbroker. At court, an official recalled the chaos on the coastal border caused by a villain, delaying trade between the Silent Cloud sect and the Heavenly Dragon Alliance. The leader assigned Hwei the mission to become the Southern Sea Special Envoy of the Sun God Palace, preparing to face new danger. Songju was the resting place of Yon Namchen, who once operated in the shadow. He had said if he could rest, he wanted to watch the sea and drink tea with a confidant, even if it was murky tea in an unwashed cup. Sitting together over tea, Yon Namchen was surprised that Hwei could endure such a terrifying technique. From enemies ready to kill each other, they now calmly shared a drink by candlelight. Hwei half-joked that he didn't enjoy drinking tea with someone coughing up blood. He admitted he felt like vomiting due to internal injuries from overexerting his cultivation beyond his level. Despite his wounds, Hwei believed that thanks to the Sun Heart he would recover quick. Though unable to gather energy, this power would aid his path in Ilwal Xiangshan cultivation later. They continued chatting over tea. Hwei mentioned the nightmare, rumored by the Emperor and the 6 kings, but he still couldn't fully believe. He looked up at his teacup, wondering, did the war god truly sacrifice himself after the battle with the evil dragon? Hwei pressed on, questioning the man opposite. Do you really believe the war god transformed into the evil dragon and fell to the earth's depths? The older man looked at Hwei meaningfully and said, the way you speak hasn't changed at all. Hwei was surprised and asked back, the way I speak. The elder pondered, commenting on how the other led the conversation, rambling before suddenly emphasizing the most important point at the end. He affirmed he wouldn't ask or answer more, but candidly revealed he was mobilizing all forces to investigate the young master's identity. After a brief silence, the elder decided to answer the question, recounting a trip to Nakwa Valley, the battlefield between the war god and the evil dragon. However, there he found only traces of powerful martial arts and explosive, with no dragon scales or any sign that a dragon had ever appeared, only human traces. After the incident, the Jongshan Chilja group became the 6th king, retreating to their assigned stronghold. Among them, Sword King Sang Wibok had not left Changleng for many years. Since the war god disappeared, no one knew if he truly vanished or was made to vanish by someone, and the name revealed was Yon Namchen. The elder calmly asked Namchen if the war god's successor desired revenge. Namchen replied indifferently, denying the assumption and wondering if the war god was still alive. Then he quietly affirmed, I am Namchen. When asked about his relationship with the war god, Namchen denied any connection and shockingly declared, I am the war god Namchen. The elder opened a chest and asked if Namchen knew about the Thunder Dragon Sea, the intelligence hub of Yukmuma. He revealed he had built his own version. Namchen was stunned hearing the name Thunder Dragon Sea, while the elder handed him important related docs. The elder nodded in confirmation as a mysterious shadow appeared behind. Night fell with a vague warning, and more. The elder suddenly mentioned Songju and saw Gongja of the Sun Palace, as if reading Namchen's true intention. Namchen was startled, secretly admiring the other's sharpness. Just as he predicted, he knew too much. Another High Master sensed Namchen's latent power. Though a Grandmaster himself, he felt pressured by that aura. A young tiger is still a tiger. Elsewhere, the leader asked Lord Gong's opinion. The situation required a concrete decision. Namchen recounted the feeling when the sun's battle energy rose within him, helping him resist the overwhelming pressure of Hua Jing. When asked if he had fully resisted that pressure, Namchen smiled, revealing the fire in his heart blazed fiercely, unwilling to be subdued. Gong Hupiang, regional commander, emphasized Songju's historic importance, which helped establish the current dynasty. He asserted that without the Silent Cloud sect, the Solar Palace wouldn't exist. Cheng Mui, leader of the Blood Wave unit, interrupted bluntly. Showing impatience, he urged everyone to skip the formalities and get straight to the point. Gong Hupiang understood and immediately stressed the goal was to eliminate Sa Gongja, the one who harmed Ji Chenhia. Cheng Mui boldly declared he would tear him apart if he dared confront. Though angry, someone in the group warned that both the left hand, the imperial physician, and the right hand, the northern martial king, were present. Acting rashly could anger the lord. A mysterious figure remained silent, eyes full of suspicion, as he watched the conversation unfold. The elder warned that the life and death formation not only drained physical strength, but was more brutal than the demonic sect's secret arts. He affirmed it deserved the title, Supreme Strange Art. The bearded man spoke in a low voice, planning to retaliate similarly, acting silently without anyone knowing. The fighter was worried that the doctor who treated them would immediately notice the traces, but the other just laughed and suggested, we just need to keep the doctor busy. The three continued discussing guessing, believing that a simple wound wouldn't be enough to attract the doctor. It had to be something serious and special. In the darkness, a blood-red object glowed. It was the life and death formation, the supreme secret art balancing life and death, containing the entire principle of combat. The Huishan leader recognized it as similar to his war god technique. They wondered, how does one walk the line between life and death? The young man stood silently, eyes determined. He exclaimed, "Are you saying I have to swallow this?" A subordinate mentioned Sa Gongja, questioning why he was brought here. The leader confirmed it was because the Sun Palace Lord knew Jichin Hyuk's affairs well. The cunning man smiled, confirming Sa Gongja was meant to be a sacrifice. The fighter got excited, volunteering to kill him personally. They planned not only to deploy Yado and Kingmu guards, but also send scouts into battle. The first death was a sacrifice, the second, a tool to bring peace. The order was given, blood must be paid with blood. The blood wave unit and scouts launched simultaneously, shouting, "Understood." The authoritative old man in yellow robes stood in the hall, eyes stern, reproaching, "You're late." A subordinate rushed in, reporting the situation. He declared, "We must attack the Silent Cloud Society." The old man suspiciously asked if that was the faction that fought last night. The young man confirmed the opposing faction was indeed the Silent Cloud Society, the largest force under the Sun Palace. The master calmly replied, "I know." The master doubted the reason for the action, but the young man responded confident, "Last night I discovered something new." Faced with suspicion, he simply turned his back and calmly said, "I'll explain later." Something in his eyes silenced the master. He turned back with a bright smile, "But first, please listen to me." The old master nodded, signaling him to continue. He asked directly, "When the poison ghost appeared in Songju a year ago, did anything unusual happen?" He mentioned the third son of Hei Rong once sought help because someone was poisoned, even though the company always avoided the Silent Cloud Society's territory to prevent conflict. A link gradually emerged. The master wondered why the disciple suspected poisoning. The young man said the patient would die even without going to Herong. The symptoms were too clear. When asked for details, the young man described the victim's body covered in black lumps, black blood flowing from eyes, nose, mouth, and ear. It was a sure sign of poisoning. He hesitated, suggesting it might be a demonic curse, but the master interrupted, urging him to speak plainly. Why did he hate Herong so much? The young man admitted he didn't know where Herong's headquarters were, only that they were dangerous. Though a merchant group, Herong was no ordinary trading faction. If Herong came to Songju for the first time, it meant they brought something rare, and perhaps it was extremely dangerous. The master nodded, agreeing with the reason. The master confirmed Herong's people were poisoned by that item, and the Silent Cloud Society bought it. The young man nodded quietly, yes. The master asked if the young man intended to act against the Silent Cloud Society. He answered decisively, eliminating the source was the fastest way to end the aftermath. The master mentioned a weapon, Amshin Ilguang, also called the Demon Sword Amshin, which had terrified anyone who dared touch it. That sword had swallowed all who sought it. Only the martial god, the sole person to ever master the legendary demon sword, had control over it. After the martial god disappeared, the sword shattered into many pieces, each emitting dense evil energy, causing unpredictable danger. One of those fragments was rumored to be right in Songju. As Sa Gongja of the Sun Palace, the young man couldn't ignore it. He affirmed that once inside the Silent Cloud Society's main hall, he would recognize the fragment. But just as he finished speaking, a knock sounded at the door. The knock echoed. The master asked who it was, and the reply came. It was a member of the Silent Cloud Society, coming to apologize for yesterday's incident. The man bowed, admitting fault for barging in abruptly the day before just to see the doc. The young man inside looked suspicious of the sudden apology. The visitor brought urgent news. A leader in their group had been poisoned, black blood spreading through limbs, the situation critical and urgent. In the night sky, stars shone bright, forming a pattern. A voice full of amazement rang out. The war god has returned. At dawn, the horse caravan departed the city under the blazing red sunlight. Inside the young man, the chaotic power from the pill last night still flowed. Looking at the man before him, the young man silently assessed. This guy was at best first-rate, maybe only second or third-rate. Jichin Hyuk was surprised when blamed for causing the caravan's late departure that morning. While Jichin Hyuk was confused, two elders debated the presence of a suspicious figure. The man in red claimed to be the Northern Lord, saying he acted under the Palace Lord's order. An older man appeared at the door, urgently begging for help, reporting someone had been seriously poisoned. Jichin Hyuk sternly demanded a clear explanation, or he wouldn't follow. The Lord sighed and revealed the poisoned person was Jichin Hyuk himself, someone the Palace Lord highly valued. The man in black bowed, admitting they had overreacted out of worry. He thanked Jichin Hyuk for not punishing the gatekeeper harshly. Jichin Hyuk suspiciously asked how this related to the present, and was told both the gatekeeper and the Dr. Sorihiem had been poisoned. Jichin Hyuk doubted the coincidence that both the doctor and his friend were mysteriously poisoned. The man in yellow recounted that both victims met Sorihiem in the morning, and by afternoon were vomiting black blood. Jichin Hyuk concluded they had been watched since entering Songju. Hearing the name Sorihiem, the older man decided to set off immediately, even wanting to take Sa Gongja to investigate. The The plan was immediately blocked, although from Solar Palace, Sa Gongja was not allowed into the main hall. The man in black warned that the coincidences were too great to be random, but admitted Sa Gongja was highly valued by their leader. In response, the man in yellow angrily cited an unreasonable reason. Sa Gongja was barred from the main hall for safety. He strongly rebutted, saying Silent Cloud was not that dangerous. The man in yellow worried that forces like Yato or Bloodfang would act immediately upon seeing Sa Gongja, but he couldn't bear to leave him alone. Ji Chenhia calmly said, "It's okay." Ji Chenhia confidently asserted he was no child and certainly wouldn't be in danger in Silent Cloud's territory. The man in yellow reluctantly agreed. He told Ji Chenhyuk to seek help from the nearest lawkeeper if anything happened. The two men left silent, leaving Ji Chenhyuk alone in the grand building. Ji Chenhyuk clenched his fist, eyes resolute. If blood must be shed, it must be the enemy, not theirs. Elsewhere, a man introduced a secret organization situated between intelligence and assassins, specializing in gathering information and covert actions with versatile skill. In the dead of night, a shadow stood in the enemy's mansion, anxiously asked, "Do you think I have a chance to survive and leave here?" Silence filled the space. The young man sat with his back turned, smiling in reply, "You're straightforward." He turned his head, eyes cold yet amused. "Want to bet with me?" The young man calmly inhaled the poisonous air filling the room, eyes steady. "Thanks to the solar heart, poison means nothing to me." Suddenly, a figure lunged from the poisonous smoke, swinging a sword with overwhelming killing intent, attacking without warning. The strike was stopped inches away. Two eyes met, one furious, one calm. The battle began. All the chaos originated from one place, the Sun God Altar, a legendary treasure both great powers coveted. The Gwanggryong Jiako clan of the 10-star sect, on behalf of the Demon Palace Sun, exchanged access rights to the Sun God Altar with the Heavenly Dragon Alliance and 10-star sect. From there, a non-aggression pact was established between Gwanggryong and Mokwu. Yet now that pact was break, the elder realized a terrible variable was approaching. The enemy panicked, realizing the young man was unaffected by the poison. He stood there, composed and smiling. An assassin charged from behind, swinging a staff decisively, but the young man didn't turn, silently clenching his fist. With a swift glide, the youth moved like a red wind through the enemy. Each glowing slash in the poisonous mist left precise marks of destruction. Faced with unimaginable power, the opposing leader panicked and ordered an immediate retreat. The young man stepped forward, his cold voice echoing in the dark, "Beg for your life." His foot slammed down hard on the fallen opponent, forcing him to repeat every humiliating word. "Please spare me. Don't let me die like a dog." Elsewhere, the imperial physician lying in bed quietly reproached, "You have deceived me." The person opposite bowed his head and softly replied, "God had no choice." When asked about So Rihyun, the old physician pondered and answered, "He's probably still at his usual haunt, an important person to the Black Cloud sect." Then he stared at the other. "Who are you?" The man stood up, clasped his hands in salute. "First time meeting. I am Jiun Young, the captain of the Black Cloud sect reconnaissance team." When questioned if the order was truly given, the young man answered resolutely that he would accept the punishment. Elder Mayui was stunned, unable to react immediately. Another young man stepped forward, gently placing his hand on Elder Mayui's shoulder, asking permission to handle the matter instead. The other man stubbornly insisted, being forbidden is unacceptable, but was cut off by an unexpected event about to unfold. A subordinate reported to Elder Mayui that the reconnaissance team had acted. He immediately asked if Jangsun knew, but only received a vague reply, "I can't say for sure." Elder Mayui heard that the plan was approved by Lord Jangsun himself, aimed at dealing with Huyun, the one who defeated his nephew, the second young master. Elder Mayui gritted his teeth, thinking he should have passed on the life and death slash technique earlier. Alone, Huyun could win one-on-one, but if ambushed by a group. A subordinate rushed in, reporting that the deputy captain had taken the assassination team into action prematurely, without waiting for order. Elder Mayui angrily asked about the Blood Wave team's status, but was met with silence. He ordered immediate reports if anything changed. The schemer in the shadows realized things weren't going as planned, but remained confident that handling the fourth young master would be easy. The villain warned of future consequences, hinting at the death of the fourth young master's mother and secrets yet to be revealed. Elder Mayui's eyes blazed as he declared he would go to hell later, but his opponent was about to fall into hell right now. Despite the threat, the villain laughed mockingly, ready to sacrifice himself if Elder Mayui wanted his life. Elder Mayui replied with contempt, saying his life was as light as a feather, not worth taking. The enemy mocked back, mentioning the fourth young master. In the silent night, a voice asked why someone was outside. The other softly replied, "Just wanted to breathe some air." Huyun confided about the upcoming life-or-death training at Death Valley, a place he had never been, filled with unease. Elder Mayui affirmed that the fourth young master was now a special combat cap, no longer just a noble son. The enemy replied, pretending to accept the new title, then slyly laughed, implying that the captain was about to lose his time. Elder Mayui told himself the fourth young master was capable of handling the reconnaissance team. He had reported the presence of the Northern Martial Lord, the key to turning the tide and punishing the Black Cloud sect. The old man in yellow robes stood thoughtfully before the sickbed, eyes flickering with suspicion. He whispered that he needed to verify the fourth young master's hypothesis. A young man with tied-up blue hair appeared, smirked. He emphasized that he was the one who eliminated anyone daring to insult the familiar stance of that young master. The enemy was confused and frightened. Someone remarked that the second brother was all talk, with mediocre strength, dragging down his subordinates as well. The blue-haired youth openly admitted to using demonic cultivation. He mocked the others as fools for not knowing that Solar Palace was actually a branch of the demon sect. After the fight, the young man walked alone in the night. Ahead was a back alley few paid attention to, but it was exactly where he needed to go. He stopped and looked up. The night wind quietly blew, carrying old memories. This place was all too familiar to him. Silent footsteps echoed in the dark as he ventured deeper into the alley, where his footprints were imprinted from the past. Standing before a house with a red lantern hanging, he raised his hand to knock, but everything was strangely silent. The door trembled slightly, opening just a crack as if someone had just left, making the atmosphere even gloomier. He frowned and observed, then sighed. The house had closed early, with no one left to welcome him. The old man bowed respect, saying that a noble like the young man shouldn't appear in such a lowly place. The young man looked puzzled, gripping the blood-stained sword hilt tight. In his mind, he wondered if the old man was calm because he had seen enough strange things before. A boy approached, offering a steaming bun, asking if the young man wanted to buy one. The young man smiled, gladly paying and even offering to share half the bun with the boy, but the boy declined, saying he was already full. The moment he bit into the bun, the young man immediately realized it was poison. He silently wondered why anyone would be selling buns in such chaos, and confirmed the poison was quite strong this time. Still calm, the young man reaffirmed that poison had no effect on the solar heart within him. While halfway through the bun, he used his sword to draw a symbol on the ground, leaving a message for someone trained by Yon Namshin. Anyone who had been under his tutelage would understand the meaning. The young man smiled with satisfaction upon decoding information from 12 Shadow. Northern Martial Lord was at the Hong Long Temple, 700 steps south. He closed his eyes, chuckled softly, and refused something, not belonging to him but neither to the other. Raising his hand to the sky, his eyes resolute, he shouted that he wanted the Hong Long dragon's blood, shocking all who heard. Despite being restrained, his eyes remained sharp like a wild beast. Though claws were removed, the fangs remained sharp, a silent warning clearly visible. Godikmea warned the young master not to stir up old secrets long hidden. From the shadows, assassins suddenly lunged forward. The assassin squad quickly closed in, preparing to form an encirclement formation. Godikmea froze upon hearing the mention of Hong Long bloodline, an ancient forgotten code. The young master's chest glowed, revealing a blazing red dragon image pulsing fiercely. Godikmea sensed a familiar killing intent, identical to the one that once made him tremble. There was only one such person. Though the young master unleashed the bloodline's energy, Godikmea believed it wouldn't affect the elite assassins. The young master calmly faced the encirclement formation, affirming he had been waiting for this moment. Unleashing a secret technique, the young master activated Hwajeong's martial art, Byokrashin Hwangryeo, erupting with blazing red flames. Godikmea's eyes widened in shock, the dazzling light reflecting in his pupils. He realized something terrible. The young master coldly asked, "Now do you want to talk, Godikmea?" The old man's face full of terror. The assassins simultaneously retreated, feeling the overwhelming pressure from the recently unleashed technique. Godikmea exclaimed in horror upon recognizing the technique's name, Byokrashin Hwangryeo, known only in legend. Sion Hwayan sipped tea calmly, commenting the flavor was good despite lacking a nose, ears, eyes, or mouth. He explained Yukmumun, a spy organization where 6 senses and even presence do not exist. Hwayan's expression changed as he sipped the hot tea, his eyes turning serious. Godikmea was stunned, recalling the past, wondering if the young man before him was the Yon Namshin of old. Godikmea regained his stern demeanor and bluntly asked Hwayan's purpose in seeking him this time. Inwardly, Hwayan admitted Godikmea suspected his connection to the war god, but the time to reveal it had not yet come. Hwayan's eyes grew cold, revealing his true desire. He wanted to know one thing. Hwayan spoke plainly. "War god, Sionwa Yoon, I want to hear his story." The old man remained firm. "You didn't come just to hear what everyone knows. No one who knows the Hong Long bloodline is familiar with the war god. First appeared at the end of the Central Plains War. The Western War finally ended. People thought peace had arrived. But an ancient nightmare once told in legends rose to devour the world. The war god stood alone to stop that disaster. Since then, he officially disappeared. Rumors say he plunged into hell with the evil dragon. Every Mid-Autumn festival, the royal family holds a memorial for. The young man smiled, sipping tea, thinking, surely something new made them create such a beautiful story. A beautiful tale of the bravest hero who sacrificed himself for world peace. That way of speaking, they called him the cunning war god. The old man looked at the young man and laughed. "Come to think of it, you're strangely like him, young master. Amhanin, fewer than 5 people know of, and Byokrashin is a martial art only the Hwajung master can perform." The young man replied nonchalantly, "Is that so? I can use it too." The old man said sternly. Only one person ever knew and used both. That was the war god himself. And then 15 years later, that person reappeared. Someone who could use Byokrakianwangriu. So you mean I'm connected to the war god? The young man turned away, smiling softly. You guessed wrong. I'm just here because I know I can get free information. Namchen spoke in a low voice about code, golden dragon blood, a sign reserved for the royal family and Jonchenchil. He affirmed that only the emperor and the sword king among them knew where he was hiding. Though surprised, Namchen accepted the upcoming mission with determined eyes. If necessary, I will do it. He smiled softly, asking the young man to live happily, a blessing a war god had never known. The young man replied gently with a sincere smile. I understand. I will do so, Namchen. Namchen handed him a wooden box. Open it later. This is the last gift this old man can give. The young man sensed something unusual and asked, Are you planning to leave? Namchen could not accompany him, so he sent a female warrior from the 12 Shadows instead. The girl appeared as fast as lightning. The masked girl reacted coldly when asked to accompany someone who once drew a sword against Namchen reassured she will be useful. Elsewhere, someone discussed Sa Gongja. This person had knocked out the gatekeeper and was hiding in an inn in Songja. The sudden change made them exclaim, since when did Sa Gongja become like this? Truly ruthless. In a secret room, 3 people discussed using the Amshin shard, a deadly poison. They believed that if someone was poisoned, even the immovable divine healer would have to act, because they were not from Herong but from the Silent Cloud sect. A bearded man pondered. The Amshin shard might force Herong merchants to yield, but was the real target to take down Sa Gongja Hu. The young man reasoned clearly. Silent Cloud supported the second young master, while the Herong Merchant Guild backed the third young master. What if a Herong merchant was in Songju at that time? An elder was shocked by this reasoning. He suspected the information came from the religious authority, the Hao clan, or an even deeper force. He himself had never heard of an alliance between Herong and Silent Cloud since then. An observer praised the young man's intelligence and vision, saying he shouldn't be buried in the Central Plains wilderness. The elder confirmed the blood cannon demon had come to Songju to find an important item. Both agreed the situation was suspicious, but unfortunately, there was no evidence. They didn't even know exactly what the item was. The young man spoke sharply. It's not that you don't know, but that I do. That item once belonged to the war god Xian Weiyun. The image of the legendary sword appeared, its light cutting through the black sky. It was the sword forged from the butcher's blade of hell, stained with the blood of the Central Plains centuries ago. Alone in the room, the young man sighed. Though everything seemed coincidental, he couldn't shake the unease inside. His breath grew heavy. With a deep premonition, he felt a blood rain was about to fall, signaling impending disaster. A series of lights pierced through the window. A surprise attack had officially begun. Sharp spears shot through the air, embedding forcefully into the ground, signaling the start of the ambush. Spears buried deep in the earth, thick dust rising. A loud scream echoed through the room, marking the start of a fierce battle. In the quiet room, the young man calmly drank tea. He called out to the 12 shadows, coldly asking about the situation outside. A figure in the dark replied. The Blood Wolf and reconnaissance bird teams had acted. All personnel in the area were being replaced. The young man below was curious about the reconnaissance bird team. He proposed a bet. If he survived, he would win. If he died, the other side would win. The prize for winning was answers to his doubts. The young man laughed confidently, believing victory was certain. The opponent behind silently watched. The man in black stood still, silent. A mysterious figure slowly stepped into the night, preparing to act. Poisonous mist began to spread, surrounding the young man. It wasn't deadly poison, but a sophisticated paralytic gas. The young man realized the enemy didn't want the poison to kill him. They wanted to finish him themselves. The shadow moved into the thick mist. The enemy appeared within the smoke. A carefully prepared assassination was underway, but the young man stood firm at the storm's center. Amid the poisonous fog, the young man suddenly attacked, striking fiercely at the struggling enemy, his eyes cold and decisive. The sword spun, slicing off the opponent's wrist. The enemy screamed in pain, while the young man remained calm. The enemy's face was revealed in the sword's light. Fear showed as he faced the young man's true power, a sharp swordsmanship without hesitation. Reflected in the blade were closed eyes, calm, focused, carrying a killing intent like a god's. Surrounded on all sides, the young man stood in the middle of the encirclement. The enemies charged simultaneously, with shouts of killing echoing around. Swinging his sword with full force, the young man added weight to his strike, creating a power like thunder. One enemy was knocked back with a painful scream. His swordsmanship changed rapidly, the young man moving like an illusion. This was the ultimate speed, the blade becoming the end of countless lives. Blood dripped from the tip of the sword onto the floor. The more the sword was stained with blood, the heavier it became, the unchanging fate of a weapon. The The young man gripped the sword hilt tight, his eyes resolute. Nourishing the weapon with blood was the destiny of war god Hwaryu. Two enemies shouted angrily, cursing the young man like a beast, but his gaze remained unwavering. The challenger of gods must bear the consequences. The young man stood proudly in the courtyard, his eyes confident as he drew his sword. No one taught him this. He learned it himself by syncing each move with the rhythm of the solar heart. An elder was shocked inside. He didn't expect the Black Cloud sect to be so bold. They had created a situation forcing him to act. He wondered, did the sect leader know this in advance? Amidst the courtyard filled with corpses and blood, the young man raised his sword facing the survivor. The elder doubted. Did the sect leader deliberately send the fourth young master to the Black Cloud sect's Songju province? The young man raised two swords emitting fierce dark energy. Though his inner strength was weak, he still triggered sinister energy. He didn't expect provoking them to be so easy. The dark energy burst like a violent wave, causing the enemies to clutch their heads in pain. They panicked, shouting, "Demonic cultivation! It's demonic cultivation! You've learned demonic cultivation!" One enemy clenched his fist, angry and regret. He had thought the second young master failed due to tricks. He didn't expect the young man to be this dangerous. He once dreamed of becoming captain by defeating someone without inner strength. Facing an unbeatable power, the enemies panicked and retreated, shouting loyalty as ordered. The young man's figure stood among corpses and blood. No one dared to turn back. Among the crowd, civilians were stunned. They wondered, was the only thing the young man feared the Black Cloud sect? The marketplace returned to its usual rhythm. Amid the noodle vendors' calls, young man quietly observed, still alert. A familiar scent kept him from relaxing. Though the surroundings were peaceful, young man frowned slightly. He sensed someone's presence. When a voice called out, "Hey, brother," his eyes sharpened. As the voice sounded, young man tightened his grip on the sword hilt. Coldly he retorted, "Full already? Need me to cut you open and check?" Without another word, young man drew his sword and launched a swift counterattack. The enemy hadn't reacted before being thrown into the air. The young man walked slowly through the crowded market. In his heart he calculated, if he met the northern martial lord alive, that would be his victory. But if ambushed by the hidden assassins earlier, it would all end. He looked up at the starry night sky. Amid the bright market lights, his steps did not stop. If I fall, that's their victory. The young man sighed, sensing a long night full of turmoil ahead.